Welcome back to For Your Speculation. With me, as always, is Rachel,
Hello.
Cesco,
Oh,
Erik,
Hello.
and Rob.
We survived.
We did not do a predictions video. We were all, schedules were busy. And so we're here to talk about the post-mortem and talk about, our thoughts on the show and some of the winners. And so we'll start with the first top 8 award of the night, which was supporting actress, which went to Ariana DeBose. Thoughts on her speech, thoughts on the win, thoughts on what she wore?
that was the moment in time where I was like, I cannot watch this sober. And so as she was accepting it, I was like, all right, let me pop something. And it made it better. It made the entire thing better. Yeah. I was not a fan of anything revolving her. Nothing. No.
I like what she wore and I liked her speech. I like that she was more direct with the queer history and everything, more so than in her previous speeches, which she kind of talked around it, but she was more direct, and that was great. So I like that part.
Yeah, I like how she ended her speech. I thought it was a strong end to a pretty good speech.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm mixed on her kind of overall, but I mean, she did well this season. Obviously, she's had some good moments. She had a great speech. I liked what she was wearing. I did not like her hair. I thought the hair kind of aged her. How it was more poofy than usual. But what else can be said? Red seemed to be the color of the night. A lot of red.
I didn't hate that.
No, I mean,
Hers was on the orange side of red.
I like Pence in theory. The execution we can talk about, but I like that a few people showed up, just wanted to like mix things up, and I appreciated that. We got shorts. We got
love the shorts.
a jacket with no shirt underneath. We got pants. That was fun.
We got Judi Dench showing up.
I know. Well,
I don't think anyone thought that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Or Anthony Hopkins, honestly. I was not banking on either one of them to show up. I mean, he obviously had more of a reason because he was giving out the award, but like, I don't think she thought she had a shot. So at 87 to make the trip, she's a goddess. What can you say? Yeah.
Lana must have pushed her into like going, otherwise you'd put her in another movie. Like,
well, it was funny because both Branna and Kieran Hines got COVID within the 10-day period of the Oscars. So there was a lot of, are they going to be able to go? And I wonder if Dench was going to essentially be like the main representation for the film in case that had happened.
Kind of going back to supporting actress, I think it was interesting how when that movie was coming out, or when it actually came out, I'm trying to go back on when everybody was kind of saying she was going to get nominated and then she was going to win. And I'm trying to remember how that was all coming. And it was just interesting how people were pushing that narrative so hard. And early on, I'm not sure I was kind of buying into that. Of like, oh, she may get nominated, but I guess I'm a little surprised at how it went. And I'm thinking, was it LA Critics that was the first one to start getting to that, to award her a major award, and then it was Golden Globe, and then so on and so forth. And I just thought it was an interesting how that narrative really got pushed hard, where I mean, I personally just didn't think it was going. I didn't think it was going to happen. I thought it was just it was a story because that performance had won, back in '61, and so I just thought it was really interesting when she won. And it was kind of surreal. And Cesco, you were popping edibles. I was I don't know. I was probably on my third cocktail by then, but I just sat there and said, "Fuck, that really happened." And just kind of thinking about how we were discussing it back in, I don't know, back before the film was even released, and how they were really pushing it hard. And I don't know. I just think that it is interesting how campaigns and word of mouth and just getting into just pushing something like that, how that it can actually really make something happen like that.
It
Well, there are-
started to feel, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's because there were so many narratives this season that, I mean, some took place, some took hold, and some didn't. But for DeBose, since the movie was supposed to come out a full year before it did, her narrative was already there a year before everybody else's was. So it was in place, and it was just a matter of time, and it took hold. It never let go.
It started to feel inevitable like towards the end, but honest to God, I thought Dunst had more of a fight in her than she did. And I thought, especially when it came to SAG and BAFTA, that that there'd be a little more industry support behind her, just even in terms of name recognition, because it's her first nomination. She's been around for so long, and I think she's one of those actresses that everybody thinks is a little underappreciated. Certainly more sort of like a history than DeBose, basically like her first real movie, essentially. So I don't know. I kept thinking, things might change when we get SAG, and things might change when we get BAFTA, but she just swept. So I think people were just enamored with the narrative, the idea that they would get to award the same role again after so many decades, and also I think it became clear that was going to be the award for West Side Story, which we've seen it happen in the past, where there's a movie that has multiple nomination and doesn't look like it's going to win any of them. There's usually one place where the sort of like support sort of congeals, and people are like, okay, well, it's not going to win anywhere else, let's give it this one. And that's kind of what happened with her, I think.
Well, also too, she was the critics' leader as well, which I think was the biggest surprise. Dunst was just a couple under her, but DeBose was the only critics winner to also win the Oscar. None of the other leaders in their acting categories won. Stewart didn't win. Cody Smith-McPhee didn't win. Benedict Cumberbatch didn't win. Only DeBose. So she had everything working in her favor. She had critics, she had industry, she had narrative. It was unstoppable.
I'm a little baffled. We talked about this sort of like separately in our chat and everything, how just of any of the performances in that movie, I would have probably singled out the Feist. Maybe like that was the one performance that I thought was competent and sort of like hit the mark in terms of like the singing, the dancing, and the acting. But I walked out of the
more
theater,
than the original.
Yeah, and it elevated the role, like what we got in the original. I walked out of the theater thinking that DeBose was actively horrible, and that was for me a huge roadblock just mentally to get over in terms of predictions. The fact that I had such a negative reaction to her performance that I couldn't really bring myself to buy into the reality that she was going to win. So I sort of like kept finding like, I don't know, I kept finding like ways to predict someone else or push Dunst, and no, it just
Dunst couldn't even get a BAFTA nomination, which was wild. That Jesse Plemons got in a BAFTA and she didn't. I think that was nuts.
The problem with Dunst, who, I mean, I love her. I would have voted for her, but the chance of her upset was riding on the belief that the power of the dog was really strong, and it was actually really weak.
Yep.
I don't even think Dunst was in second place.
Who was in second place?
I do. I think so.
I think maybe Alice.
I was going to say, I think that there could have been a surge for Alice at the end. She didn't get in at SAG, which also hurt her. but like I thought at most of the events, like there was a lot of and maybe it was just, you know, this congratulatory, like you finally got nominated for Ellis. But you know, like the uh the gift of the help might get her hers next.
My God, that movie is just churning them out.
I think with DeBose, I know Cesco, you're not a fan of either version of the story or the
Yeah.
musical or anything, but that is like widely considered to be one of the greatest written female roles, and it almost, oh, I'm not saying it doesn't matter who plays her, but it's almost a leg up over anybody else in that story because that character has such a narrative from point A to point B in the story.
But that's the other thing for me, because as much as I hate both iterations of the musical, Rita Moreno is amazing in that role, and you have such a strong performance to live up to that I think, like, just by comparison, I mean, there is no comparison. So like if you look at the two of them, and can you really justify these two performances are both Oscar winning performances for this role? I don't, just one just completely eclipses the other one to me. So it is very bizarre. But I mean, I can't explain it in terms of there was a narrative behind it, and it was really the only major award Oscar that this movie was going to get. So it all sort of like congealed into her sweeping, but there's no comparison to be made. As much as I hate both movies, Rita Moreno is amazing. She really is the most memorable thing about the original.
For me, it was very much an Anne Hathaway in Les Miserables, and the role was the narrative, and almost nothing mattered. I mean, almost anybody could have played that, like Rich said, and that would have been
right.
That would have been. It didn't matter. It wasn't that it was Ariana DeBose. Anybody could have been put in that role and still been able to ride this all the way. And amazingly, she did not suffer from a lot of negative comparisons to Moreno. And I think it, yeah, like really none. That was never a part of the conversation. And I think it was because Moreno was also in the movie with her own part. If she hadn't been, maybe we would have seen and heard a little bit more, but she escaped that entirely.
Yeah.
I think Rob was right that the win felt like it was going to happen when she won LA. At least for me, like a musical performance winning a critics award, like that doesn't happen. I feel like the last time was when Jennifer Hudson won New York.
I was gonna say it's very reminiscent of Jennifer Hudson.
But I definitely feel the nomination was like set in stone. Also, like a whole year ago, she did the Oscars pre-show.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and Rita was there presenting Best Picture. Like, I feel like this has been a story for over a year. Like,
yeah.
And I don't remember who she spoke to on the red carpet, but someone told her, maybe you're going to be here next year, and she said, maybe I will. And that has stuck with me the entire time. How like it was like a very awkward interaction on both parts, and how it turned out to be exactly what happened.
Yeah.
I don't remember that at all.
Well, it depends what red carpet show you were watching.
Apparently, I guess I would, or maybe I just didn't know who she was.
Or likely, yeah.
Or clearly, I was not paying attention. Clearly, because I do not remember any of that. Anyway, so yeah, it's interesting that the role won the Oscar, not necessarily her. Interesting. I did not. I remember seeing the movie. I really liked it. I thought she was good, but I don't remember going, wow, I think, yeah, I didn't get that visceral reaction as far as thinking that she was going to win. I think when you meant Anne Hathaway, when I saw that, I said, she's got it in the bag. I didn't feel that way. Ariana DeBose, I did like her in the role. I just didn't see it as a as the winning role.
I wonder if a lot of the, as Erik said, there wasn't any negative towards her. Like, I wonder if like, I kind of felt that some of it was because the performance was now being played by an Afro-Latina, that it was like kind of like fixing the mistake of, you know, having Moreno wear dark makeup, and like this was their, and as we previously have mentioned, this is the first female performance that Spielberg has directed to a win, which is weird.
His third ever.
Yeah, and his third ever, yeah.
And they all happened since 2012. It's insane. It's so bizarre.
You mean that
I mean, if you think of all the actresses that he's directed and all the performances,
was that the third
he's
nomination,
directed.
female nomination? Melinda Dillon, Sally Field, and Ariana.
So
no, for
third
Spielberg.
overall.
Yeah, Spielberg. So
Yeah, he doesn't have, you know, a lot of
I mean, he has half the cast of
Whoopi Goldberg and
Oh God!
Oprah
Oh,
and-
sorry, forgot about that.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But other than that, he doesn't have a whole lot of, you know, female
Oprah, Margaret,
films,
Whoopi
so-
in the movie. Yeah,
Yeah, you got
Meryl
three there,
Streep.
but-
Yeah,
Oh, Meryl Streep. Oh shit.
yeah.
Meryl Streep.
I'm slightly
But yeah,
hungover and jet lag.
3 wins in his entire career is a pretty low number.
Yeah.
All within 10 years.
Yeah, if you just went over his filmography and then just ask yourself which of these performances do you think won the Oscar, that is, the Bose is not the one that I think people would point at.
More so than Mark Rylance, but
Well,
Right.
Even
Which I mean, I did love him in that movie, but yeah, I mean, I know that it's sort of like hotly contested win. Yeah.
super
So
violent.
before we switch to the next category, I'd like to play a small game. Which of these nominees do you think will be nominated again?
ooh.
Kristen Dunst.
Good. Can you just go over them like one?
Jessie Buckley,
Yes.
Ariana DeBose,
No.
Judi Dench,
Yes.
Kirsten.
No.
Yeah, I think Judi
I know.
Dench will be nominated again.
She's got one more in her.
Oh, absolutely.
She's got one more.
I
think,
would
like,
say, yeah.
I
I would
mean,
say
if she-
Ellis, Buckley, and Dunst are probably going to be back.
Yeah.
In some
I mean,
form or another.
If Judi Dench can get nominated for just staring in the camera for 3 seconds, then she can get nominated.
That's why she got in. She got in because she closed that movie and she closed it down.
She got in
It
over
is such a bizarre.
Co-star.
A yak in the classroom was robbed.
Speaking of Judi Dench,
Sorry, guys.
John, thank you for joining us. We're wrapping up supporting actress. Any thoughts on Ariana DeBose's win?
Expected.
Yeah, that's it.
I would have preferred, I think, any other of the 4 besides her, but
And
Anjani was probably my second.
before we move on to supporting actor, which of the nominees do you think might return as a nominee next year, the year after that, sometime before they die?
We'll never count Dench out. Is that what you guys were talking about?
Yes, you know us well.
he'll get like 3 nominations before Ariana DeBose gets the second.
I think they all could come back. I think Dunst definitely could come back. I think that she's kind of broken that seal.
I
I know the Bose to me feels like the first role that she gets where she's not dancing, people are going to be like, oh, she cannot act at all, actually. Yeah. And because it's kind of like what happened with Jennifer Hudson to an extent, where yeah, like her, yeah. I mean, apart from Respect, her roles after Dreamgirls, I think the one constant has been how, yeah, what set her apart in that performance was really the singing, the performance of the musical numbers, and that the acting isn't there.
Obviously,
So,
she was robbed for Sex in the City too, though. So Or
No, she's
pretending
in the
to like
first
that
We all
song
were.
bag.
She's in the first one.
Is that yeah, the first one? Yeah,
Sex and the City 1.
the
Sex
bag.
and the City 2, we don't talk about.
That's right.
I
Just like that, it was erased from our memories.
I really think Jessie Buckley has a good shot of getting in again and possibly winning. Like I feel like
Absolutely.
she has that trajectory potentially.
I can see her next
She has a really high profile horror movie coming out with Garland. So she's starting to get those roles. I think that she is starting to get like lead roles. So yeah.
And I think she'll become a BAFTA staple
Mhm.
pretty soon too. And I think they're going to find some type of middle ground with their voting and jury procedure and stuff like that. And
It's
I
gonna
think
take some time, I think, but yeah, they need
that'll change
aware,
within 5 years.
they're aware they need to fix some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of Buckley, I liked her look. She looked cool. I liked her the short kind of red hair. She looked great.
She did.
Yeah.
She's still doing Cabaret, right?
Yeah.
I think her next nod will be in lead. I think she'll. That's my prediction.
Okay.
It's a good prediction. Yeah.
So let's jump to the next
Wild Rose
category,
2.
which was supporting actor.
This was the best acting category, which I don't think will ever happen again. Like if you look back at all of our vlogs, every time we get to supporting actor, there's like 15 minutes of groaning through like the nominees. And like of these 5, I kind of liked all of them to a certain extent. Like I thought 2 were great, and even J.K. Simmons I thought was perfectly serviceable in what he did. So, which I'm assuming he's the one that people were kind of on the fence about in terms of the nominee.
I think he suffered more from Sorkin's script than his performance, though, because most of his performance was really good. He just looked worse than he was when he had to spit out like the whole conversation he has in the alley or backlot or whatever.
Entire monologues that normal people would never utter.
Exactly. It was so bad. So bad. And there was no way that he could really pull it off as earnestly as he was supposed to. So it just came off as super fake. But the rest of his performance in there is funny and whip smart and firecracker and all the stuff that it's supposed to be.
If I have one con with him specifically, is that him getting in was for me a deciding factor in predicting Kidman to win. Because I felt like this stuff tends to happen when there's a very strong leading performance that is actually so strong that it gets in, like they kind of like acts as attraction for like supporting performances that were otherwise never on the map. And so as soon as he got announced, I was like, she's winning. And then this year was a mess.
Well, and without a Will Smith, that would have been Benedict Cumberbatch's path pretty easily, but it was
or
not.
Andrew Garfield.
Or Garfield, yeah. Either or, I would say,
That nomination was very confusing to me in light of the movie and the script both not getting in, like 3 acting nominations and nothing else.
If this was a only 5 best picture lineup, we would have totally have thought Being the Ricardos would have been the top 10.
Yeah.
Just based on the 3 acting nominations.
And the PGA nom.
And a PGA nom. And it also wasn't a we didn't go into Oscar nominations in the morning saying, oh, it's a lock for 3 nominations. Like, he was a surprise. It was an upset nomination. Bardem was even somewhat on the fence.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things about this year that remain very confusing to me.
Well, this was just like a cut above Steve Jobs for him. Still missing screenplay, getting acting nominations, and that's it.
Right.
The good thing is that a second nomination for J.K. Simmons meant we were barred a second nomination for Jared Leto.
Yeah, no, I will absolutely embrace
I
that.
never believed that was going to happen, honestly.
Razzie Award winner Jared Leto.
Yeah.
Yes.
I never seriously entertained that would happen. Gaga, I think at some point I was kind of resigned to, she's hitting everything.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense to put her in, but even there, part of me was just, there was like this voice in my head saying like, if people people that sat in front of this film, you cannot convince me that there's a consensus behind this being a good performance or even a passable one. So it was kind of like, what do I do? Because she's doing so well, but on the other hand, she's atrocious. So yeah, it was tough. It was tough.
I don't even think, given how House of Gucci actually performed, I don't even think Leto was in sixth.
No.
Mm-mm.
No.
There was still like a Bradley Cooper lingering for a movie that did better. I don't think he was. I mean, I predicted Leto. I was glad to be wrong, but
I think I had Leto in sixth.
I had Cooper.
I think SAG just drank some dumb bitch juice, and like I don't know how they ended up nominating him, and like
Ben Affleck.
I think there's just some weird ass shit going on with SAG this year.
Well, they like him because they
The TikTokers.
SAG was only 12 for 20 this year, right?
It was one of
I
their
feel like every year we kind of overestimate how guilds and Oscars are gonna sort of like
After
there's
I'm
more of
glad
a
that there's
split,
this
I think,
separation
between
now.
the two than we realize. Yeah, which is good.
Yeah.
I think the Oscars have fixed a lot of
Yeah.
SAG fuck ups over the years.
Although, and we'll get to it later, the SAG stat for Best Actress is holding strong.
But I think we also forget that SAG, the small group that they create for the what do they call the nominating committee? Like
The nom-com.
It's different people every year. Like
Yeah.
it's always so it's like I think sometimes you're gonna get these anomaly years where just random shit gets nominated that you're gonna get Marissa Tomei for Unhook the Stars or Jared Leto for House of Gucci. So
Yeah, it's only 2,000 to 2,500 of 160,000 members, and it is random, like you said, every year. So this could be, people that are in a couple of commercials a year, or it could be Nicole Kidman.
Right. Who was in a commercial.
it could be the entire cast and crew of Morbius.
It could be. It really could be.
His entire polycule. Yeah, who knows?
His whole cult.
I wanted to agree with Cesco about supporting actor was the strongest category this year, which never happens.
It'll never happen again. I don't
And
know.
Kotzer was the best winner, I think, by far of the four for me personally.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Even though he wasn't my pick for the winner.
Yeah, same.
Yeah,
Did he start coming alive after Gotham? Is that when all of a sudden
Yep.
it started pivoting towards him and away from McPhee? Because McPhee had the globe, but then
Yeah, but that was long after.
And that was long-
Gotham was so early.
right.
Yeah.
But I feel like that seemed to be when things started kind of moving in his direction.
But also, I never felt that he was out. Like, even with McPhee doing so well, I never felt that Kotzer was out. I always felt like he was between the two of them, and that both of them were very serious contenders for different reasons, but also because Kotzer did really well with critics too. Obviously, McPhee did exceptionally well with critics, but Kotzer was like right behind him.
Yep.
So the support, I think, was there, and had the guilds announced before critics, I think we would have predicted Kotzer like right from the get-go, and then it wouldn't have seemed like such as a surprise as it was. Yeah.
But also too, because very early on, any of us were thinking that it was going to be Marlee Matlin that was going to be the standout and the easiest nominee here.
I was sure until I saw the movie.
Yeah, she absolutely faded. She was a non-character
Yeah.
compared to Kotzer. And it was pretty clear early on, pre-nominations, that Apple was pushing everything they had really just for him. Because I don't think they thought any real chance for the movie outside of him. And that was a realistic
And maybe screenplay,
strategy.
Yeah.
It just was, because he was the strongest and the most emotional part, and Best Actress was going to be super competitive, so Amelia Jones wasn't really there.
And Jones got in a BAFTA. So I have this nagging feeling that had nominations been like delayed by like 3 weeks, Coda would have gotten like 8 instead of 3.
And on the other token, had everything been a month earlier, we have an entirely different outcome.
Right. Exactly. So that tells you that, yeah, scheduling sort of like calendar related sort of like stuff is as important as campaigning, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I always feel that the years where things are delayed because of the Olympics, weird shit happens. Because like, I hate to say it, like Brokeback Losing was a Winter Olympics year. Like there's always that gap between the nominations and the ceremony where it's just a month of nothing.
They need to stop putting out big cowboy movies during the Olympics. It's that is the issue. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
But like back to Kotzer's when like the moment Yoo Jin-yoon stepped out to the very end, it was just a perfect like Oscar moment the entire time, like, and just her emotion of like presenting it to him and her staying there and like looking at him as he's giving his speech. Oh my God, it was.
I loved her holding it and just looking at him.
Yeah,
so incredible.
What was interesting, and no one bothered to, because usually when they go up there, they get the people that the people in the background go and escort them, to the side to make sure that they're not in camera view. And no one did. It was funny. It was like, nope, no one's going to take her hand and walk her off to the side. So he's going. So I thought that was, I did think that was such one of the big highlights of the night.
It made for some of the best pictures of the night and most indelible.
I just love that he got to do
indelible image, but maybe the second most indelible image of the night.
I just love that he got to do his speech with the Oscar in the frame. Like it wasn't like remove the Oscar from the frame.
Yeah, I mean, she was just doing it so that he could sign his speech, but keep it close to him. It was perfect. It was.
He turned it to face the camera at some point.
Yeah, it was just.
It was so perfect. So like she should host the Oscars. just like have her host the whole thing. Yeah.
I didn't even notice that she turned it to face the camera, but I did notice that she, of course, learned that she fingerspelled his name when she opened the envelope as well, which was lovely. That was
good thing it was him then. So
no kidding.
That was probably my favorite moment of the entire show, was that presentation and just their camaraderie on the stage together.
And he's given great speeches all season, and that is always a thing that people enjoy and that's the difference between a year that had very few to no real televised speeches and then others that did. You want to see it. You want to see what he's going to say. You want to hear. It's a big part of it.
You can't downplay how charming that the cast has been in all of their speeches, all of their appearances, and how much that has meant for their entire campaign.
And
how hot the brother has been.
I mean,
consistent.
Oh my God.
Solid, consistent throughout the entire season.
Flawless.
Short too. He's like just this much taller
this
than
pattern of hotness that never relented. Yeah.
But they are also they were such an earnest group the entire time through all of this, because it was such a surprise and underdog victory.
You could feel there was like real collegiality, and they all really cared about the movie and cared about each other. And that made a difference in terms of how it came across, I think, to voters, but also just in terms of like the audience. There was an earnestness about it that I think really struck the right chord at the right time.
Yeah, which felt less like selling a movie or being in the awards campaign.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I mean, Coda won when they went to the White House, probably.
Yeah,
that was, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, they do a movie every year, but yeah. Timing is great.
It is great. Yeah.
In that particular case, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I feel a little bad for Cody, but I also feel like sometime in our lifetime, a Demon Twink will win. We'll live to see that.
But yeah.
Mike Feist will come back in something.
His time is coming.
He will win.
We will get a Demon Twink winning Best Supporting Actor.
I hope so.
That age stat is like one of in supporting actors, like one of the only stats that held up through this season. Everything else went toppling like dominoes, but the young age stat and supporting actors still hold strong.
Is
Yeah.
is Timothy Hutton the kind of like is he still holding the?
Oh yeah, he will
Yeah.
probably always have that stat.
Yeah.
By
Yeah.
like
20
10
old,
years or something.
21.
20.
He was
20.
20?
Jesus.
20.
And he's the youngest by like 10 years or something.
He was also lead, so
Yeah,
there's that.
yeah.
He was
And wait,
Like
also a rapist?
undisputably the lead of that movie. Yeah.
Cesco, also a rapist? Timothy Hutton?
He is.
He is.
He had some allegations come
He
out.
canceled for. Oh, I don't want to say
What?
he's not. Wait, I'm looking this up. now.
Rachel just jumped from like 8 to rape.
So after,
Like there was no like that just went
That's-
right there.
Oh,
You're
yeah,
thinking, Rachel,
Also,
this is
why
the
are you
for,
asking me? If like
this is
there's,
the
like,
for your
example
consideration
here?
podcast, not the for your prosecution podcast.
I don't know. For some reason, I thought that I
you
had
know
seen,
what?
I had
think you're-
seen it on your Twitter feed. That's why I was
no.
not because you're like an expert on rape.
You never took advantage of me, and that's what you're implying.
Rachel, I think you're right. I think there was something about that.
Oh wait, can I put it in the
It had
chat?
to do with when they were, was it the Glorias or whatever?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, so there is stuff there.
There was, I didn't mean to be like Cesco, who's an expert on people.
I am
Yeah.
not.
From
I thought for some
1983.
reason I had seen it on your social media at some point, but
Yeah,
that's
it's
neither
from-
here nor there. It doesn't matter. He's still the youngest.
Well, I
person
tweeted
ever.
earlier that there's a number of sort of like members of the academy, sort of like the current standing like members of the academy that have not been stripped of their membership, even though there's a pattern and a very sort of like troublesome track record in terms of their behavior. And then I think other people that have been stripped of their membership, there seems to be, I think, the different sort of like measures of justice in terms of who gets to stay and who gets stripped of their membership, and it seems to be evaluated on different scales. So yeah.
And prior to the Weinstein and Polanski of it all, the only person who was stripped of membership was a character actor who was giving away his screeners.
Carmine.
Yeah,
He shared his screeners with his friends.
of course it was an Italian.
Which
All right.
I can't say anything to that.
Does anybody know, Eric? Maybe you know this. The code of conduct.
Yes,
that has
that's
been
why we're talking about this.
oft cited in all of the articles about Smith.
Yep,
When did that code of conduct?
2017, which
And
is
that's-
why
Which is why
Polanski.
you can't backdate awards administrator hat. You cannot backdate rules and regulations. So
Yeah.
Yes, you
Code of
can. Who
conduct-
cares?
You can.
You're grandfathered in, as they say, which is why Kevin Spacey's not going to be kicked out of the Academy and his Oscars taken away.
I just love that everyone's like, well, why haven't they gone Woody Allen? It's like Woody Allen is not in the Academy. Like,
It's when people say all of those things, it's like I hate it because because then I do, like Rachel, I have to put on my awards administrator hat and be like, let me tell you why. And a quick Google search would have told you this.
he
Let
never
me tell you
accepted
why.
membership, right? He never joined.
Mhm.
Yeah, he never
Yeah.
did. But then it looks like you are defending, and there's almost
Right.
no way to
Right.
have that conversation.
You're not gonna get
without
on Twitter to play devil's advocate.
No, that is
but
not the place
He
to
is
do
not. He is not a member of the academy.
and has
And
appeared
people-
once
Yeah.
at the
And
Oscars.
people don't understand that
After 9/11,
basically
right?
all
Yep.
of your membership entitles you to do is vote on these things. That's essentially it. You don't need to be a member to be nominated, to win, to present, to show
Yeah.
up.
I mean, there's no punitive. There's no
no-
real punitive sort of measure with it. It's just symbolic. You get
Mhm.
stripped. You're no longer part of the membership. But I mean, there's no punitive way to sort of like.
And the only people that have any like real voting rights for this kind of stuff are the Board of Governors. The membership at large doesn't. They can't say, oh, I think Will Smith should be kicked out of the Academy. That's entirely the president, CEO, and Board of Governors. That's a very, very small number of people.
Right. but I think the punishment is their own, what they did, what they were, their actions, their behaviors, and how that has tarnished their image and everything else. I think that's kind of the punishment of, and some get away with it more than others, and I think it's all degrees of what happened. I mean, there's definitely people that were accused of, one thing, many years ago. There wasn't clearly a pattern of that kind of behavior, thinking like Weinstein and Spacey, who clearly there was a pattern of behavior. There are other people that may have been accused of one incident, but there was never a pattern of behavior. It wasn't like all of a sudden people came out of the wood, accusing of somebody. So I think I think you get into a really slippery slope on, who to punish, who not to punish, all that stuff. And I think this stuff will work itself out as far as behavior, as far as their personal image, their brand, what producer, what director, what film company wants to get behind this individual, knowing, whatever these issues are. So I think at the end of the day, clearly Smith, his brand, his image, everything else is clearly tarnished. And, maybe a few years, people are going to forget about it. But I don't know. I think we just start getting into a really weird, slippery slope on, this kind of stuff.
But I mean, Polanski got stripped of his membership for stuff that happened well before the code of conduct got put in place.
And the
So
only reason
you can apply this stuff retroactively to strip people of their membership, just based on the severity of the infraction, which is how I'm interpreting this. Obviously, like, Polanski is a fugitive. So, I mean, and this happened well before the code of conduct was put in place. So you can make a case
as a fugitive.
Exactly. So you can make a case that should the Academy decide to strip Kevin Spacey of their membership, there's a precedent for it. So they are just actively deciding not to.
I'm honestly surprised that Spacey hasn't been, because the only reason that Polanski and Weinstein were stripped of theirs was because of the notoriety of it. They're not going to just do it on their own accord. They're going to do it under an incredible amount of pressure.
Correct.
And there's actually been a lot of pressure against Spacey. So I'm a little surprised that they haven't. But
see, I mean, you're not grandfathered into the membership. It can be taken away from you, even for stuff that happened well before there was a code of conduct in place, which, by the way, I don't even think the code of conduct covers someone getting slapped on stage, because I don't think people would have thought to legislate about that eventuality as though it was like something that could happen.
And also too, the big, and I guess we're going right into it anyway, even though we're only at supporting actor. The big difference between what happened last Sunday and anything else is off-screen versus on-screen.
Sure.
And that's the bottom line. The visibility of it, the inarguable nature of it is there.
I guess as the board of governors, you have to sort of like sit down and decide, is a non-screen slap worse than an off-screen sexual assault? I don't know. Is it? So that is a conversation that I think people are not really willing to have. And it just speaks very poorly in terms of like how this is being handled. I'm sorry, it does. And I don't want to give out any judgment on what happened on Sunday. I'm actively resisting that. But I mean, there are precedents that are not being, I guess, applied consistently.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, Kotzer was great. So I'm happy for him.
Me too.
And sorry for calling Timothy Hutton a rapist.
Oh, really fun Kotzer story or fun fact that I didn't know until the Santa Barbara Film Festival. And one of my writers was there and asked why he wears a hat all the time. Mm-hmm. And he wears a hat because having to sign and to read things and all of the lights that come into his view, the hat blocks that enough so that he can see. And it was just like, oh my God, I didn't even think of that. And I love that was kind of illuminated. It was really cool.
I was gonna claim him as a fellow Baldy, but no. Yeah, it was just
No, yeah. Sadly.
He was the best winner of the night, and also the
By
best
far.
moment, also the best speech.
By far.
It's like all
Mhm.
Which of these nominees will be back?
So I was just thinking about that. I hope I'm fearful, but I hope that there's a path for him to actually get roles in mainstream productions and not just fade into the background or be sort of like relegated to the kind of like niche stuff that tends to happen with minority actors. I hope that he gets to star in a leading role in a high profile movie. He's a wonderful actor. I don't know that it's going to happen.
I think
I think only Simmons and Plemons.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
That's
Clement.
it. Plemons next year.
Mhm.
Yeah, Plemons I think will win at some point. It's my prediction.
I don't see a path for Hines, Kotzer, or Smith McPhee. At least right now.
At least
I also want to say Hines like has been in literally everything. So
I love that nomination.
I love that nomination. I love that he got in. I love that like he was able to. Cause I really did enjoy him in Belfast. So yeah, it depends on if he gets kind of a boost from this or if he goes kind of the similar roles that he's been doing. Like if he just kind of keeps keeping the course. If he
It was
gets a
just
boost, he can come
really
back
good
again.
example of like a good supporting performance, wasn't it? It's just sort of like the I think all five
Mm-hmm.
were for once playing actual supporting characters.
Yeah, there's no real crazy category fraud here. I mean,
Right.
That I
can
got the longest.
Kotzer and Smith McPhee have pretty substantial roles.
Sure.
They're
But
second.
clearly supporting. Yeah.
They're the biggest of the supportings by
Sure.
far. But yeah, at least there's a clear distinctive lead in each of their films, and it's not
Right. And it's on
Right.
them. Yeah.
Or both of their leads are
no Mahershala
nominated.
Ali's here.
yeah.
So let's move on to original screenplay. First of all, I don't understand the need to do a Juno reunion 15 years later, like, and not invite Diablo Cody to present the category. Like,
Yeah, we can get into those pairings.
All of the pairings and horrible tributes was the worst. Absolutely.
All the Marvel fans we're gonna tune in for the Junior reunion, right?
but like at least it made sense, like
Electra.
they're presenting original screenplay, which was the movie was an original screenplay winner. I don't understand the White Men Don't Jump reunion. Like, I love Rosie Perez. Thank you for finally like
Sure.
having her there to present. But why?
Weird.
Like, you don't need a reunion to bring her back.
Aren't
I
they-
think
Yeah.
she could introduce any award that she wants. I wouldn't have guessed that was a movie that people would want to isolate in that way.
Aren't they doing a remake?
But
of
they
it?
did.
Yeah, they're doing a remake of it,
Yeah.
That's probably why.
but that wasn't even a part of it.
Right.
That wasn't like oh man, it was so bad. It was so bad.
I did love Woody Harrelson being like, "This is the most I've ever spoken at the Oscars, and I've been nominated 3 times."
Both him and Wesley Snipes kind of going off script, and then a little bit of Rosie Perez of like, I'm just trying to carry this whole thing. Was pretty fucking funny.
Yeah, it was fun.
They were
I
good.
thought that was funny.
Yeah.
Pointless, but funny.
I mean, at least Juno was celebrating like a real anniversary of
Yeah.
like Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
28
I think the Juno thing was also too a really great way to introduce Elliot Page
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
and have that be like a thing. So, and that was great.
It was amazing to have him on stage, and I think that made it a moment.
Yeah.
Then again, they could have just invited him to present as a former nominee,
Yeah.
high-profile actor with projects coming out. Does he need to be involved in this sort of like weird tribute to like?
I think-
No, he doesn't.
It was my understanding that they were doing those as like part of their theme of like movie lovers unite, of like, we're gonna celebrate favorite movies from the past by bringing out, like, it just seemed like that was tied to that. I'm not saying it was like successful, but I think that's part
Yeah,
of
but that's kind of why the White Man Can't Jump was so weird, because Pulp Fiction was an Oscar winner, Juno was an Oscar winner, and then White Man Can't Jump.
It was a fan favorite.
Like, okay. Yeah, exactly. God, I hope we don't talk too much about all that shit.
No.
'Cause-
All right, so let's talk about
Anyway,
the
original screenplay, the worst.
Anyway,
one.
yeah, original
worst
screenplay.
one. Terrible.
The
Terrible.
worst screenplay won.
It
I'm
totally broke.
just
Other
gonna
than
say it.
other than Green Book, it totally broke that whole. I mean, original screenplay winners in the when you look at, I mean, I go far back, but you look at some of the great original, cutting edge, great. I mean, even though it's usually these really edgy, really progressive, interesting, cool films that win that award. You think even just going back a little bit with Promising Young Woman and
Get out.
Get Out, and then if you look in the 70s with Chinatown, Dog Day Afternoon, Network, I mean, just it goes on and on. And this one, and I get it, we cannot let Kenneth Branagh go empty-handed. He's not winning picture, he's not winning director.
But we
Yeah,
can let
my bad.
PTA go empty-handed after
We
11.
can let, yeah.
Well,
The thing that gives me hope in terms of his win is that it was clearly at least partially informed by the fact that he had been nominated in like 15 different categories and hadn't won yet. And I think that bodes well for other people that have never won and have been nominated a bunch of times. But
Yeah, he just George Clooney'd himself.
yeah, in terms of the merits of the screenplay, it was by far the worst script of the 5.
I think
Probably
we're
the
discounting
worst script
Don't
of
Look
all
Up.
10 script nominations.
Don't Look Up was worse. I disagree.
Oh,
Don't
see,
look, yeah, okay, fair.
No,
Okay.
I will definitely say Bell. At least there was some creativity, whether you didn't like the film or you didn't like. At least there was some creativeness with Don't Look Up. Again, not my favorite film, not my favorite script, but I would have taken that one over Belfast.
Me too, absolutely.
I'm-
The whole thing, and the reason for me why Belfast is the worst script is because there were elements that were written purely for one thing to happen to the next without any type of respect for anything that had happened before. So like Katrina Balf's like absolute like tiger mom protection of her son at the beginning, and then dragging his stupid ass to that grocery store in the middle of a riot. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Crazy. And that was only to get them to that location. And it was horrible. It's horrible writing.
It's horrible writing. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agree.
I'm going to be in the minority. I don't think it was a great screenplay, but for some reason I'm much more okay with Kenneth Branagh having an Oscar for Belfast than I would be, I think, if Paul Thomas Anderson had won his Oscar for Licorice Pizza.
I
get
get
what
what
you're going with.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
Paul Thomas Anderson will win an Oscar someday, and he's probably deserved it a few times before. But
Right.
for Licorice Pizza be the thing that he won an Oscar for, just seems it's definitely one of his lesser works, in my opinion. And there's a lot of problems with it. There's some great parts of it, but a lot of problems. I didn't have as many problems with the Belfast script. I get why people don't like it. To me, it was not great. Like Erik said, there are a lot of gaps in logic, but to me, it was just kind of a perfectly pleasant script. So I'm not particularly upset personally.
It was one of the situations where I understood what the story meant to him, but also one of the situations where I was watching it and it veered into just the nonsensical in a number of places, in ways that were hard to follow.
Mm-hmm.
In ways, there were points while I was watching where I was like, why is this happening? How is this happening? How is this connecting? And also I think the script that featured the most baffling scenes of the entire film year, which one of the ones we talked about, and then Judi Dench's clip.
Go now.
Yeah. Where I was like, am I high, or is this happening the way it is happening?
Well, I think both Belfast and Licorice Pizza show that when you write something that's really personal to you or based on personal experiences, that it's easy to I don't know, lose the forest for the trees, or get
Right.
To bring out some of your weaker tendencies as a writer, because like PTA writing those scenes with the character that was his dad with his Japanese girlfriends, like
Right.
heinous, hideous, but in his mind he's like, well, this is what my dad did, so
Right.
I have to write it. It's the truth.
It's a lot hard to edit yourself when things have happened to you and you are seeing them through the eyes of you as a kid.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, how is the audience going to react to this really racist thing that I'm staging? So yeah.
So I think both
that's
suffer
the
from
kind
that.
of thing too, is that if you don't know that that's based on his stepdad, and not a lot of people do, because again, that was not a big part of the conversation. The conversation was only about how awful those scenes were.
There's no reason not to take all these
lose
scenes
the
at face
craft.
value. So yeah.
And it clearly would have been better without it, because
Right.
one of the great things I think about that screenplay is that it's based on elements and things that he remembers, but it's not like, here is a biography of my life. He was able to remove himself enough in the rest of it to be a really interesting, kind of cool, meandering story. But the parts that were really specific were the things that didn't fit.
Was not successful. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have ranked Belfast, I think, third of the nominees in that category. However, for an original screenplay category, I thought it was very weak.
Very weak.
And that's the
Incredible.
only thing. It sort of got in by the virtue of it being, which sometimes this category and adapted can be, it's like, here's the runner-up for Best Picture, or here's the most progressive screenplay of the bunch.
Right.
That's often what happens.
Yeah. Either
It
or.
feels
Yeah.
like this
Yeah.
was,
Oh, this is my chance to reward this one movie that's been nominated in a bunch of other categories that I'm not voting for in those categories.
not like they were interested in spreading the wealth this year, though. Holy shit. Holy
I will say that it's hard. I mean, it's hard. Obviously, it's hard to predict that a movie is going to lose 11 nominations, but I think it's also sort of like hard to predict that a movie with multiple nominations will just go home empty-handed, period. And I think that should be always part of the way we do predictions. Movies with like 6, 7, 8 nominations, it may be worth sort of like taking a step back and deciding, is there any category that maybe is sort of like we're not seeing right now where this is actually competitive? Because there is always a tendency or a push to find some, even just one award, but to send it home with at least
A
something.
consolation prize. Yeah.
Yeah.
It happened at the Globes. It happened at Critics' Choice or whatever. So
There's a history of this happening, I think, to a degree that it is part of how predictions should be made.
Yeah.
For sure.
Agreed.
Yeah.
The worst person in the world should have won.
Absolutely.
Well, I don't know anybody here that probably doesn't think that is the best screenplay of the bunch.
Absolutely.
I haven't seen it, but I think it should have won.
Yes. Correct. Yes.
Correct answer, John. Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
So good. Good one.
it was good.
All right, so let's look at adapted screenplay, where I that's what told us it was going to win
Yeah.
Best Picture.
Yeah. And
With-
again,
with give or take
worst
editing.
screenplay won.
Yeah. Yeah. I was reading about the source material for Coda, as in the French film. And it is, I haven't seen it. Just reading the Wikipedia entry for it, it sounds like such a total shit show in every possible conceivable way that it's hard for me to understand how anybody would revisit it and decide this is a story that deserves to be told again. Or this is a story that we should, like, represent to the public after 6, 7 years, because there's an inherent sort of like message. No, again, baffled. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the French version was nominated for a bunch of Césars, and the lead won like a best newcomer. But even though it's obviously better than like the remake of the Intouchables, the Bryan Cranston thing, it still sort of felt like that. Like here's a French movie that was successful there, but people don't really know about it here. Let's just go ahead and try and make it like a thing.
It is the kind of European movie about disability that gets made where then deaf people that go to the movies need subtitles to understand the gibberish fake sign language that's happening on the screen.
Yeah.
And there's no there is no awareness that that is completely wrong and inappropriate.
Mhm.
So
And there's
I part of me understands, like, let's try to salvage whatever good, even just like the one good intention that sort of like is at the root of this film. But why not just create a separate story, sort of like an original script, and just move forward with that? Yeah.
would have been better.
Yeah, because some of those issues for me lingered in the remake as well.
Yeah.
So
Especially when you have 4 other scripts that were much more complicated and intricate adaptations of their source material
Right.
than the cut and paste that Coda was.
right.
Did we all end up predicting Coda, or Eric, you stuck with?
I did
Coda?
not. I stuck with Power of the Dog because I had
created
to-
Coda for all 3.
Yeah.
I relented and voted and got off my stupid thought that adapted in Best Picture would split, and I picked Coda.
No, Dakota.
I did as well. I think the
But it
BAFTA,
is-
the BAFTA win really switched me
It's-
over.
Crazy.
Remarkably weaker in my mind than the other 4. Like, Breath. I mean, I get why people like Coda. I get why it won. There's a lot to like about it, but in terms of like a screenplay, it feels like a student project almost, or it feels like
As a Hallmark movie of the week, if you put me in front of me, I'd be like, oh, this is cute. Why is Marley Matlin in it? But like, this is cute. but anything beyond that, I mean, if we just look at it objectively, it is very modest. It is a very modest script.
Mhm.
And yeah.
So I think both of these winners prove that screenplay sometimes the screenplay is irrelevant to the winner. Like, people vote the movie, not the screenplay. Does that make sense?
Absolutely,
Like, people
absolutely.
like Coda has the momentum right now. We like Coda, regardless of
I
the
love
fact
the
that the screen.
story. I love the
I love that they played both sides now, and it really made me cry. So I'm going to vote for
Exactly.
it.
Exactly.
Not considering like what it actually took to adapt a Murakami novel or Dune, like the almost unadaptable book of all time.
Right,
You know,
right.
like
Yeah,
no.
I would agree with that. I think of the Coda's 3 wins, the writing one was actually the least deserving one. I would say least deserving than the picture one, because I think that there is a lot to be said for the pandemic. There's war in Ukraine. There's so much going on. We've been indoors for 2 years. I understand, because I was one of the people who was
Right.
kind of swept away in Coda when I watched it. I liked something that like didn't make me want to kill myself for once, which
Right.
so many of the Oscar movies.
But that's absolutely valid. Yeah.
And that's valid, and I totally get that.
Yeah.
But yeah, its writing is not the thing that stuck out about it.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
there's nothing about Coda. I will say, like, nothing about Coda that like made me angry or like made me like
No, not at all.
dislike it. It's perfectly pleasant, and as a Best Picture winner, I'm not even that upset about it. Like, I get why people liked it. There is a lot to like about it, but as we're talking about like an actual screenplay, it was just, compared to the 4 that it was nominated against, just to me, and it completely, it was a minor league.
One
compared
of these is not like the others. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, Rachel's right, and this has kind of been, that was the narrative of the second half of this season, is that, you know, what are voters going to look at for the year of what they want to celebrate, and is it going to be, you know, murdering twinks, or, you know, women that steal dolls and hate their children? What is it going to be? No, it's going to be the really thoughtful, nice deaf family and Joni Mitchell.
I mean, 15 years after the fact, I think Hollywood is still not okay with any quote unquote gay films sort of like challenging like tropes of masculinity. And I think that we didn't really consider that.
I did.
Okay, yeah, fair. I was on board with Power of the Dog, and I was like, finally, we get our revenge for Broken Mountain, which, by the way, like hasn't aged well at all for me. But regardless, it should have still won.
Another podcast about that.
Yeah, but then yeah, those Sam Elliott comments got so much attention, and I was sort of like brought back to that place of, oh wait, record scratch. Yeah, this is still happening. This is still going on, and yeah.
See, I thought
It was a sobering reminder that
I thought the same thing, except that the response and the blowback was so swift because that was a pre-Twitter era.
Right.
And back then the Ernest Borgnine and Tony Curtis comments were like, yeah, well, this is kind of how things are. And this time it was like, no, we're different now. Things are different. But they're not.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Do you remember when the nominations came out and we were in our chat and we were talking about how Campion was going to be an original screenplay and adapted screenplay winner and director winner, and maybe direct a winner in each acting category if Cumberbatch and Smith McPhee both won, because she'd already directed Hunter and Paquin. Like
I had all of my like cool stats ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of it's kind of remarkable. When the nominations came out, none of us would have even said that Coda was in second place. Although I will say, I'll stand up for myself and say that I did have it in the top 5. Like I did
not.
It was a
I
5.
don't think I did.
It was never in top 5 until my last predictions. I refused to do it. I was so stubborn, and it's my own fault. But I was so stubborn.
But I don't think you can. I don't think that was a bad prediction. I think that when we realized how things were changing, it was after the nominations.
I had it 9 in December. No,
which fair. I mean,
no, it was top 10, but I never had a top 5 until final predictions.
Right.
I mean, to also look at stats, Sean Hayter is the 4th woman to win adapted screenplay solo.
Good for her.
First one since Emma Thompson.
Yep.
So there's that.
It's considerable.
I liked Coda. It was not my favorite of the bunch.
Mm-hmm.
I thought her previous film, Tallulah, with Elliot Page and Allison Janney and Tammy Blanchard, was really good. So I like her as a writer-director, and I'm looking forward to see more of her stuff. I like that she's done a lot of stuff with Orange is the New Black and Little America. So I didn't get the vitriol that she was getting from a lot of different weirdos on the internet, but it's not a strong script.
No.
So
3 weeks later, and if the nominations had come out 3 weeks later, I think
Right.
she would be our best director winner.
Possibly.
I don't think so. I still don't think so.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
We just would have had a year with 2 female directors in a row, which would have been a great thing.
Yeah. I don't think other than Jane Campion's misstep at the Critics' Choice, she was
Overstated.
Yeah. So, and her he was a little bit of a bitch. Sam Elliott.
So awesome.
That was great, though.
That was how you respond to that. That was amazing.
Which brings us to our next category, Best Director.
Champion, yay.
Oh, thank God. I'm glad that she at least got this, because holy fuck.
I was getting nervous.
And that's
I was also getting nervous.
Yeah.
I didn't get nervous, but I was just like, I this can't be the only thing. But here it is.
And my nervousness was, what else could win in that category that would make sense?
Why would anything else make sense?
And the only thing I could think of was, what if Belfast wins everything? And that made me nervous.
For me, it was a mix of her having that Karen moment at the Critics' Choice, but also the fact that a lot of people were voting for Spielberg in the secret ballots, which also, by the way, is really the reason why it pivoted towards Cruise. so abruptly towards the end. Yeah. I did have a moment of, is she winning? But I never stopped predicting her.
That I never faulted on ever
Yeah,
from the very
same.
beginning.
And I think
Ever.
for me at least, watching it, the more that Dog lost throughout the evening, I was like, it just solidifies her win even more, I think. So it's like, oh,
Exactly.
Again, we got to send it home with something. So yeah,
Right.
Is the win, yeah.
yeah.
It can't be the all-timer.
And there was just no second place. I mean, maybe Spielberg was in a very, very, very distant second.
I think Spielberg was in second. Yeah.
But it was like everyone was so far behind.
Yeah.
They might as well have been tied for fifth.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at this list, every single film missed editing. They missed all the other little bits and pieces. So there wasn't this wasn't like a, Ben Affleck missing, so here we're going to go to Ang Lee instead of Steven Spielberg. There wasn't a clear second. There wasn't even like a weirdly what if second. Probably Spielberg.
Probably Spielberg.
Maybe Brana because of screenplay, but
yeah,
it was so unclear that there was no challenger.
And I'm very okay with her win, and I think it's going to be a win that sort of like is going to be well regarded in history moving forward. I will say that I think what Hamaguchi did with Drive My Car was really in a category of its own. And so had I sort of like had to vote on these, I would have voted for him. But I do not have an issue with her winning this, and I think it will be regarded as one of the better victories of the century so far. I would say, yeah.
The disrespect, though, of them cutting him off twice in international feature.
Jesus
Christ.
Yeah.
Just for pausing.
Yeah.
And like he had an interpreter and was still like, I'm gonna do this in English so that way I don't like waste time. And they still did it to him. Like, that's so fucking rude.
But meanwhile, certain people who do certain things on stage to presenters can speak for however long they want without being
like 4.5 minutes.
Yeah, without
for that speech.
Julia Roberts length.
I mean, they never cut off the big stars, so I don't think they would have cut him off even if that situation hadn't happened and it wasn't a rating driver. But
agreed.
Yeah.
Also, Hamaguchi is apparently family, which I didn't know. So good for him. Represent, amazing. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
The
So
other
then we had a rematch of 1993 where Spielberg beat Campion and now Campion beat Spielberg, but in actor we had a rematch of 2001.
Yeah.
Where Washington beat Smith and now Smith beat Washington.
Yeah.
Are there any other rematches? Those were the two that I caught.
Rematches.
An actress maybe, but
I'm trying to think of Brana and his 8 nominations. Going up against anybody.
I timed it. Kevin Costner's intro to that category was 3 minutes long.
Yeah.
Why was it so long? What is wrong with him?
It was a lot. It's funny because there were people that on both sides are like, this is too long, but also this is one of the few people that's talking about movies in a way that is from a person that loves movies. He just was really rambling and meandering.
I could not follow at all.
It was not good.
It would have been nice if someone else did that at the top of the show. And then that way, like, we didn't have to have it at the end, but like
do it over a montage or something. Yeah. But like, it's sort of like stopped already the show was struggling, but it really stopped. Like it really sort of like broke the rhythm of the entire ceremony. Where it's like, is it going to end at some point? Why is he still talking? Yeah.
And then Campions. Oh, Kevin, you're so dramatic.
That was amazing. I fear that she's not going to make another movie for 12 years now after this whole season, because this is not her milieu whatsoever of doing everything that she had to do the last 6 months. And she clearly had a lot of moments that were awkward and uncomfortable because that kind of speaking. But she also, just from my experience with her from September all the way to last month, just really kind of grew into herself and had a certain comfort in it.
I was gonna say she looks like a really fun person. I think like from speaking to Sorrentino, Netflix puts you through the grinder in terms of the awards campaign, and you need to be prepared, I think, for it to a degree that maybe you're not aware of. And for someone who's more about the work, or maybe just like more of an introvert, it can be very taxing, very, very taxing.
And that was the case for everybody on this movie, except for maybe Cumberbatch, who was he was at ease pretty much at any of it. Right. Everybody else had all of these moments of like, this is so strange and foreign to me, and I don't really know how to behave and talk.
Right.
Yeah, but this year we got to learn about Kirsten Dunst calling awards shrimps. So
yep,
that was cool.
Yep. I loved all of her, everything about her this whole season.
And her saying like she's already watched all the nominees, all the films, because she's in the Academy. Like
that was
amazing.
She's a national treasure.
That was one of the moments of the entire season for me.
The Carrie Coon of it all.
Member of the Academy.
Like, of course I watch everything. Why don't you?
Yeah.
Love it.
So succinct,
icon.
like, straightforward, and yeah.
I totally
how you do it
with what you said about Campion. Also, for someone who's used to being behind the camera to then be the face of this, or one of the faces of it, maybe not a role that she's used to being in.
Yeah.
But I'm glad she got hers this year.
I think
I'm very proud of her.
The incredible pressure that people are on with these campaigns, especially with Twitter and everything else, you just be so mindful of every word you say, and something that just may be interpreted differently. It's just, I don't know. It just, yeah, I could see it just, people are just like, fuck it. I don't care if I win or not. I just want this over. I want to be done. I want to go back to work. And, you think of a lot of these people that actually take it they're working because for the love of the work and the art and the filmmaking, as opposed to maybe some other people are like, hey, I'm going to take this role because maybe I'll get something. So, I mean,
that's why like PR tells you not to deviate from like those prepackaged sort of like speeches that they have you memorize for the entirety of like all the posts John could say you do. It's basically like repeating the same thing over and over and over again to avoid exactly this.
Right.
Going off on a tangent that gets you canceled in like overnight.
And there could be 100 interviews.
Right.
99.
All you need is one.
All you need is one to go off the rails.
Yeah. I keep thinking of Christopher Plummer in the year that he won, and he gave the same exact speech at every single show. Same speech. Exactly. Same inflection, the raconteurs. I mean, just the whole he never budged.
He didn't want to be
a pro.
Captain Von Trapp didn't want to be Twitter canceled.
No.
And I have a feeling he wouldn't care.
Well, pretty clear.
Yeah.
There are some.
What is this Twitter?
Twitter has made some parts of this joyless. So.
Yeah, a lot of it.
Yeah.
I do miss the discourse that was pre-Twitter sometimes. Yep. I really do. Even
it's okay.
Silver plate or gold plated DGA. I mean, that was such a great pre-Twitter experience.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so fun.
I think I also missed
the light. It's just how it's angled.
I mean, it's crazy. It's just so funny. And I got to go this year, and it was absolutely fucking awesome. It was amazing. And I snuck all the way to the front table, which was really, really fun. I was all the way at the back, literally the last table in the ballroom, and then realized that as people were winning, they were just kind of leaving, and people were leaving throughout the whole ceremony. And I'm like, nope, boop, 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 boop. And I sat up right at the front next to Leslie Linka Glatter and chatted, and it was just so much fun. But yeah, that was really neat being in the silver versus gold plate after what we all kind of started at 20 years ago. but I do miss that. I miss the ability to have at least some discourse that was fruitful a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I miss as well.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone is so critical sometimes of every little piece of every little campaign and every little scene and every little movie that sometimes I just want to watch a movie and like it, and that's all.
Right. Exactly.
That's what the Academy said.
Yeah.
But also kind of like the whole 355,000 awards before the Oscars, and it becomes very, there's not a lot of suspense. I mean, you may get a here and there of something that will upset, but most of the time it's just becomes such a foregone conclusion, especially in the acting and directing to a certain extent, although you have the Bong Joon-ho, winning over Mendez, but that doesn't happen very often. But I just think that's also one thing that just becomes a little bit kind of boring, that makes the show less interesting and fun, is just because all the it starts to cascade once the Globes happen. Then it's pretty much the Oscars are kind of like the final meal.
Well, I mean, with the Globes like down in the shitter now and sort of like BAFTA kind of like having gone off the rails, that has, I think, contributed to a little more uncertainty in terms of like last year's Best Actress was probably even worse than this year's Best Actress. So I mean, back to back for that sort of like chaos to have to grapple with, it makes things more fun, I would say.
Yes.
It's not how I would envision things to like go down probably, but yeah, we're kind of like in a gray area now of like things are kind of in flux.
Yeah.
And for now, maybe next year as well, I think we're going to see more of this uncertainty in terms of this actress that none of us predicted to even get nominated actually was a front runner the entire time. And yeah, just we had no BAFTA or no real indicators of it happening. Yeah,
I like that though. There were certainly some fairly big surprises on nominations morning. I thought they didn't really translate into the winners. I think a lot of people did really well because there really were not really any upsets.
Look at Coda and Dune were the biggest winners because they had very specific places that they could win,
right,
and had either snubs or weren't nominated in other places.
Yeah, the winners ended up being predictable, but there were a bunch of, and the supporting actress category ended up being kind of chaotic in terms of who actually got nominated.
I would say that with Chastain specifically, which I didn't predict her to get nominated, but the Morning Gov, she was the first name to be called in her category. I was like, well, good for her. This is her. She barely managed to sneak in. And then at SAG, when they showed her clip, I just went, wouldn't it be hilarious if she wouldn't it be just hilarious if somehow and then 30 seconds later she was on stage accepting her award, and I was like, okay, well then I know nothing anymore. Yeah, that's what it felt like. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The Iron Lady did.
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
So before we move on from Best Director, so my question here is, do we think Spielberg is going to win a third one?
Yes.
I think so.
I could see it happening.
He's going to be back next year, probably.
Yeah.
So.
I think so.
Yeah.
What's the film that he's doing? The Fableman?
Fableman's. Is his Belfast.
It's his Belfast. Yeah. I'm assuming it's going to be better than Belfast, probably. Better. He's a better storyteller.
Pretty good chance that's going to happen.
Yeah,
What I want to see if Scorsese manages to win Brendan Fraser an Oscar. That would be amazing.
That's next. I'm holding off a whole month for predictions. I'm not doing anything for April.
Thank you for that.
He has two
Thank you, Erik.
high-profile movies sort of
think
like coming out. So
we need to decompress a little bit.
Yeah.
It's just unhealthy. But I do think Apple is going to have a very, very, very interesting year because, they had Coda and Macbeth and that was it. Like realistically.
Right.
Sorry, Swan Song. But this year, the level of high profile things that they have is pretty extraordinary.
Yeah.
So I'll be really curious to see if they change their tune in the pre-nomination stage in a way that they obviously did not this season. They have
Because
to.
were we talking about, like, when we were in LA, were we talking about the fact that Apple had all this sort of like great material to handle, but like was grossly understaffed and unprepared to actually launch a meaningful campaign? That was it is kind of hilarious that this is what we're talking about now. Yeah.
I
like
mean, literally,
Apple
they
winning the
have more
Oscar.
money than Netflix, and they had 3 people running
Yeah,
the entire
yeah.
the whole,
Yeah.
all of the awards, the whole TV and film. Whereas Netflix has like 50 people, all in specific sections. You've got your doc people, TV people, all over the place. They're going to have to really step that up, I think, in the nomination stage.
Yeah.
They need to get a few more 23-year-old gay interns for their
Well, we
social
know-
media.
That
Yeah,
is
I
the
know
best.
someone
Yeah,
on
it's not a
the
joke.
Apple
Yeah, for
team.
real.
I'm not. Yeah, that's,
We know someone on the Apple Awards team. Everyone here on this call does.
Mhm.
He's the main
The main
person.
guy. The
Yeah.
main person. Yeah.
It's
mean-
pretty funny how many people have been able to rise from the ranks of the original movie forums.
Yeah.
The
Wow.
should have been named one. Yeah.
I mean, they beat Netflix to the punch for the first
Yeah.
stream. I'm not sure anybody
Yeah.
saw that. Oh, hello. We had a cameo appearance.
Wait, what?
Yeah, he's
Oh, yay! Hi!
Yay!
Oh, look it. Oh my
Oh,
god.
so good looking too.
Seriously. So handsome.
So handsome.
yeah, he just pooped, so it is not as sexy in person as yeah.
Are we
Uh,
going to actress?
well, the next category was actor. So
Yeah.
who should have won? Let's answer that, and then we can move on.
Overall,
For the
you reversed
five?
off from
Anybody
performer number
else
6.
except for Bardem?
Of the people nominated, probably Cumberbatch. Definitely Cumberbatch. I would have voted for him.
I would have given it to
I
Garfield.
I would have probably voted for Garfield then Cumberbatch, but both of them were. I would Eiffel Tower that any day. But yeah, one of those two would be great.
I would have
Cumberbatch.
voted for Garfield. Shocker.
He's so good.
Yeah, they were both.
He's
Yeah,
perfect.
either one would have been a great winner.
I would have voted for Garfield, but I think Washington was my favorite of the 5.
I still haven't seen Macbeth. I need to.
It's
good.
really good.
And it's only like an hour and a half.
Yeah,
Short.
he's great.
Ugh,
Really
I love
great.
a 90-minute movie.
The un-BAFTA nominated Denzel
Right.
Washington.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Still,
Yeah.
He needs to get a little of that devil inside him to get that back.
I can't even talk. Third. Oh my god. Oh my god.
I was going over the list of who's won each category for the last 10 years because, I have like a psychosis and every year I update with ranking the winners for the last 10 years in all of the top 8 categories. And I actually realized that the winners and best actor have been so horrible and so dreadful that I would actually rank this year's winner in 3rd place based on the performance alone of the past 10 years because I've hated most of these best actors.
It's one of those situations for me where Hopkins is number 1 and then everybody else is tied for last place. Like last place as like in happened like the 6th, like the 7th layer of hell.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I have the ones that I ranked above Will Smith were Daniel Day-Lewis and Hopkins. And then
Yeah.
like kind of I had to figure out who do I hate the most of the other winners.
Or who do I hate the least?
It's
Yeah.
like the part at the end of Deep Impact when Taya Leone and Omar Sharif are standing on the beach and the meteor hits and then the ocean moves back and it's like you've got your beach and then you have the drop off and everybody else is in the drop off. Well, you've
Erik,
got
was
Daniel
it-
Day-Lewis and Anthony Hopkins on the beach.
Was it Eric Sharif? Was it Omar Sharif or was it Maximilian Michel?
That's what I meant.
Okay, just double checking.
That's what I
Eric,
meant.
you're canceled.
And then every year,
No.
the winner of Best Actor is like getting hit by a 400-foot tsunami.
Basically.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
To complete that metaphor.
Yes.
Which of these nominees will come back?
Cumberbatch.
Cumberbatch, Garfield,
Easily.
Washington.
10.
All
Uh,
of them except for one, I would say, probably.
Yeah.
I
Honestly,
would have said that the winner actually had a
For the
decent
foreseeable future.
comeback
at
this
least.
year, but
Yeah.
now I
this is going to be, this is why this is never going to leave us, because Smith has such a major movie coming out this year from Apple.
Yeah.
This is going to be so telling.
What does he have coming out? That Apple?
Emancipation.
Emancipation.
It's a slave drama.
Right. That's right, because they were saying, "Oh, he's going to be back now." No, probably not.
I mean, honestly,
You never know. You
Well,
never
honestly,
know.
I
And
think-
it's
I
hard to
think-
tell. Yeah.
I think-
Right
I
now,
think-
how
I
the
don't.
narrative is going to like evolve. What it's
I will
what's
probably
evolving.
never. I will probably put him in my first predictions and never take him out of top 5.
Wow.
I
Okay.
don't think I ever will, because I think that the membership at large is absolutely going to support him.
Okay. I'm going to say he won't.
But otherwise, this is a group. Nobody's on their first nomination here,
Right.
so they're going to
And
be
on their-
back,
probably on their last. Yeah. So I
Again,
I can make a case that all 5.
which was
At
a
some
stat
point-
breaker this year
come back. Yeah.
because there were no first-time nominees in this category.
Right. That's
41
right.
41 years.
41 years. Yeah. Mhm.
Different question. Does Denzel come back in an acting category before directing? Because I feel like that's going to happen too.
I don't. I think his directing is, I don't know. He probably
I
got
think-
closest for Fences, but
I think he
Well-
might win a third though.
I
yeah,
do think
he'll
he
win
might
a third
win.
acting before he
Yeah.
gets a
Yeah.
first directing, I think.
Because he's still going to do the rest of the August Wilson cycle of
Yep.
Yeah.
He's
Like-
gonna finish that. I have huge issues with how he's approaching it creatively, but I think he is seeing it through, and kudos for that. It's yeah.
Although I just remembered he did direct that Michael B. Jordan thing that
Yeah.
came out and that came and went in December. So maybe
Journal
not.
for Jordan.
Yeah, the
Journal,
Sony
something like-
movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
We give a shit about
He's
that.
got to
Yeah,
pick
I
a.
think he's gonna win a third.
He's got to pick a really high-profile project that he can act and direct in, and then maybe he.
I feel like maybe supporting is more likely than lead if he's meant to win a third one in acting where he
Yeah, I
gets,
don't know.
No, I don't think so. I think
I don't know.
it's going to be another lead. I think he'll Meryl Streep it.
And it would make like for him to be the first Black actor to have 2 leading Oscars, like that seems like a story that's going to happen.
Mhm.
Sure.
And it's going to be him.
Oh yeah.
He works a lot. He does enough that he has got something usually every couple of years that's in contention.
Yeah. He's super consistent.
Yeah.
So moving on to lead actress, the category where none of us predicted the winner to be a nominee.
It's
I-
ridiculous. I'm
I-
so embarrassed.
I'm not though. I feel like we all had reasons.
Nobody watched the movie. Like
That was
I
my
mean,
reason.
I watched it, and that's why
I
didn't
watched it
predict her.
too. I watched.
Yeah, I
was
watched it in
funny.
September.
I watched it, and then I took her out because I thought, "There's no way this is
Exactly. That's exactly what I did. I had her in, I think, in November.
Yeah, I had her in.
And then I one morning I was like, oh, this is available to stream. Let me watch it. And then an hour and a half later, I was like, burn it all down. I need to give my TV a bath. Yeah, it was, yeah.
I still maintain that my theory is that this is the anti-2002 actress, where as much as in 2002 everyone was super gung-ho about at least 4 of those 5 performances, and it was like everyone was fighting to the death over their favorites. This one I think was kind of the opposite, where I think
Right.
there was a lot of people who were just like, I don't like
people
any
were
of
like
these.
praying that Penelope would win to save the category. Yeah.
Right. Like, I think it was just like, I just didn't see a lot of passion for, that's why I never picked Chastain's. I never saw any passion for that performance or anyone being like, oh, she was
I still
amazing.
think there isn't that much sort of like passion behind it. It was a situation where I feel like the last few years, and I might be off with my dates, but we sort of like came to expect this category to line up with picture a little more consistently, whereas it had been like the case for like the longest time where, you know, actresses would be the lone nominee from their movie. That sort of like had started to sort of like change after Julianne Moore, I think, and there was a better match between actress and picture in terms of like Best Picture nominees having the corresponding sort of like Best Actress nomination as well, which in turn made it easier to predict who was going to win. And then I sort of like got settled into the pattern only for this year to happen, where I think two of these women were in movies with 3 nominations, and then there was like a movie with 2 and 2 movies with 1. None of them had director or Best Picture nominations, and you're kind of left on your own in that situation. Like, well, then given that there's essentially no strength in terms of the picture that's carrying this performance, how do I judge this? And Chastain had not been a hit with critics. She lost a Globe. The movie was a huge flop. The makeup was, I think, the worst makeup job I've ever seen in my life, ever. And there was just so many hits against it that sort of made me feel justified in she's not in. I cannot see a path for her.
Also, 2003. I said 2002, 2003. We all know what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our favorite. We knew.
Yeah.
I didn't predict her to get nominated, but then I did end up predicting her to win, because when I took a look at how the category actually came together, I don't think that you really win your second Oscar unless it's really just a blowout, universally beloved, totally a sweep.
Which I think Ricardo, I thought Ricardo was going to be, much
that
better.
eliminated Kidman, Cruz, and Coleman from the conversation for me, and then I was down to Chastain or Stewart, which is why I actually thought Stewart was not in 5th or not in 4th.
Yep. Agreed.
Because of that. And you know what, someone, you know, like Cate Blanchett, who won everything for Blue Jasmine, that's your second Oscar. So that's what made me feel they're going to be giving somebody in this category their first Oscar. And that, I mean, I didn't think it made sense for her to. My thing was always that nobody saw it. And I also, just in the year where like almost everybody in contention in that category was in a biopic, I didn't get the sense that Tammy Faye Baker as a real life figure was as beloved as Lucille Ball, as a Princess Diana, as even an Aretha, in terms of people that were being portrayed this year. So I didn't think that those two things helped her. But, you know, it might have just, in a weak category in terms of the films were not overall very rewarded, I feel like it might have just come down to, we want this person to have an Oscar. Chastain's had 2 losses before. It's time to let her in the club.
Yeah, that's a good point, that none of the other the films nominated for Best Actress won 0 other Oscars.
Right.
So I guess no, it's makeup for Tammy Faye.
Yeah.
Tammy Faye won makeup.
Which is kind of what led most of us to that place, that Marion Cotillard, Meryl Streep place.
And I think also that we get way too distracted by the secret ballots.
Clearly.
Part of that, I do blame the
people out of
people went
thousands. Yeah,
people went nuts.
Yeah,
There's-
I was not buying the Cruise thing at all.
Yeah,
I was
in
like,
my
that is
mind,
not.
there
I
was
put her at
absolutely
2,
no evidence.
but that was it. There was no. I'm like, I'm not pulling.
I actually had Stewart too, just because I think because of her, just because she seemed to be really campaigning a lot and being very visible, and in high profile events like Producers Guild, and I had her in second. I saw there was a little bit of momentum, not enough, but I did see her.
I mean, because I have brain rot, I actually tallied the secret ballots, and she had more votes than the Bose and Smith.
Yeah, she had like 15.
She was only behind basically everybody voted for Kotzer. Then her, then Smith, and then the Bose. So we're talking about like she was in more ballots than two people that had swept.
Yep.
Up to that point, which to me was an indicator of, you know, if you pay attention to what happened with Hopkins, if you pay attention to what happened with Coleman, well, then this must mean something. And it probably meant that she wasn't second. And if the Oscars were in 3 weeks, maybe she would have won. But then it's hard to do the math and decide what's the cutoff. It's, yeah.
The difference between Cruz and Hopkins and Coleman, though, was BAFTA. And
But also the overall strength of the film.
Exactly.
Yeah, picture nomination.
And the overall strengths of the films. But Cruz had nothing. She literally had nothing going in. So the groundswell was too late. And it was also not real, no matter what people said.
Right.
Now, I never had faith
real.
that enough people watched the film to vote for her.
Yeah.
Which is what I thought about Tammy Faye, honestly. So, I mean, yeah.
But I think
my thinking in terms of Kidman being the favorite was sort of like predicated upon the idea that Ricardo's was going to make it into picture. Because I was sure. And then at that point, you would have had an actress with a corresponding Best Picture nomination, which to me would have been an indication of just overall strength. But that didn't happen. And then she lost SAG. And then I just kind of started feeling like I have no idea what's happening. And then I just went with the person that I saw the most on the secret ballots.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was kind of my trajectory.
Speaking of SAG, like we said earlier, that is a stat that stayed true, and that is you need a SAG nomination in this category, period, if you want to win.
I don't think any of us, no matter who we were picking, was going off like bad, and like I don't think we all had reasons for going for who we went for.
Right.
I think it was just such a bizarre year in terms of the nominees, in terms of the precursors, that I mean, even now, like trying to do a post-mortem on that category, it's like it's still hard to kind of like piece together how exactly Chastain did it. You know, like usually when like someone surprise wins, you can like look back and be like, oh, there was these signs here, here, and here. But even for Chastain, to me at least, it's like she just did it. I don't know how. Really.
I think for me it was SAG. Once it got SAG, I went, oh no, please, no.
But we also
this
talk
is not
every
happening.
year. We talk every year about very thirsty campaigners, and we had several this year. Just like narratives, not all of them are going to stick. Right. Some do and some don't. And then that's why the post-mortems are so much more fun, really, than predicting, because then you get to see which ones worked, talk about why they worked and others didn't. It's fun.
I know why she won. It was the Christmas video she did.
It
was Tammy Faye.
I was gonna say it's like
100%.
Oh no, it's just like advertising. Even it's like the stupidest advertising for some product or something. You remember that? Like
that's when I knew. That's when I knew Allison Janney was winning over Laurie Metcalf. When she wore that fucking bird at the Golden Globes, I was like, oh, she's winning.
Right.
Like people are gonna be delighted by the stupid fucking bird on her shoulder. The stupid little
You embrace it. You embrace the absurdity of your character.
And Laurie Metcalf.
And of the season.
Yeah.
But that's what
I
you
will
remember.
also...
You always talk about that. And then I think that's a lot of like with campaigning and PR and advertising.
Bringing that fucking dog for the artist.
It's something that sticks with people. People remember this and they keep talking about it, whether it was bad or good. You know?
I will also say that one of the biggest indicators, just based on the stats that I have, which is the combo of Globe and BAFTA, is gone.
Yeah.
It is gone.
Yep.
And that to me used to be sort of like, I wouldn't be able to really predict until like BAFTA announced their winners. And then if there was that match of she won both, then she's your winner. That's gone. I think gone forever. So that is going to be, it's going to ask of us to sort of like rewire how we go about evaluating just precursors altogether.
Well, unfortunately, what I think is going to happen is that Critics' Choice is going to move into a really, really high position because they went for Chastain too, which was absolutely shameless bullshit for them to do that.
Right.
Absolutely shameless. It should have been Stewart. clearly by an enormous margin.
Right.
But they just did what they did because their voting happened after SAG.
That's why they can never go first. We were
Yes,
joking
but I
about
think
it in
that's why they want
yeah.
to go first. That's why they want to replace the Globes. And I think next year is going to be really, really telling of what the future of all of this is.
Five
But
Because
ties.
they're good at riding
They're-
the wave.
they're
I
gonna
don't think
keep
they've ever
doing
been
that.
good at sort of like setting the trend.
Yeah.
I think they're very much aware of the fact that having that sort of like calendar thing of coming after gives them the opportunity to sort of like piggyback on what's been going on to sort of like reinforce a pattern that's already there. If they were to go first, then they sort of like have to put, they have to kind of like put out a winner that might not materialize.
well, and
So-
they ultimately still went with Power of the Dog over Coda.
Right.
They still did that
Right.
long after. I mean, well into the place where Coda was becoming something.
Right. I think they have to decide, do we want to just sort of like keep quote unquote predicting the Oscars, or do we want to embrace a much bigger but less sort of like secure spot in like the season?
I think it makes them more dangerous.
and sort of like take the risk of being wrong. Yeah.
They want the place and the position and the notoriety, I think, now more than anything else. And they'll destroy everything the Globes have to do it. So, which is really just like, is it a lesser of two evils? I don't know.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens next year.
Yeah.
All right.
Best Picture. But wait, which of these nominees will come back?
From actress?
Mm-hmm.
All of them
All of them.
with Stewart as a maybe.
Okay, so I would say 4 of them.
She's a long shot maybe. She's
Yeah.
easily like a one and done though.
Yeah.
I'm saying all of them. She won a fucking Caesar.
Yeah,
She can do anything.
she can.
I think from this list,
She'll be Kate Middleton next, and she'll win for
Coleman
that.
could actually win again. I could see Coleman winning again. Well, she's just on a streak now, so I could see Coleman winning again.
She'll be back again. She could be nominated 3 years in a row
Which is, yeah.
with the new Sam Mendes movie.
The amount of Pepto-Bismol that I'm gonna need for this.
She's the only nominee. She's the
Yeah.
only nominee this year that returned from last year. So she's
Just
going to
one-
have a streak.
She could have just gone for the father.
A Meryl
We
Streep.
would have all been happier.
Well, since BAFTA hates her, yeah.
It's nice. I mean, Cesco's feelings aside, it's nice to see someone who is peaking at this age in actress.
I feel like in a way she's like the new Judi Dench. Although I think for her it started earlier than Judi Dench. It's very
Much earlier.
yeah,
Yeah.
much earlier. Yeah. I just hope we don't get to a point where she starts getting nominated just for being in movies.
But she's not going to do movies like Meryl Streep where that happens.
Right. It's just a hope. Yeah.
She's not going to do Music of the Heart.
Right. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, she seems to be more pickier about the project she's in. So
Yeah. Even animated. I love her animated work too. She's just, I don't know.
Mitchell's
Like-
versus the Machines.
Great choices. Great choices.
So Best Picture. I mean, I think we already talked about Coda and that happening. But anything else about that category? I mean, I like that they went back to there's 10, there's no 6 or 7 or 8, like it's just 10.
I hate it, but
Love it.
I love it too.
Love it.
Me too.
I think it should just be 5.
Ideally,
Yeah.
but if
Well,
we're playing this game, like fine, 10.
At least it's like a fixed number.
Yes.
So it's
But-
easier because you just
but-
watch five films real quick.
It just makes it less exclusive. It's just 5 more movies than are gonna end up being like also rans, and it just kind of dilutes the prestige of it, debauches the prestige of the award a little bit for me. But yeah, it is what it is.
I still have a hope, an optimistic hope in my mind that having 10 instead of 5 for the long term, instead of having it for a few years and then switching to a sliding scale and then switching back to 10, will lead eventually over time consistently to having different types of things in Best Picture. I'm thinking specifically that we got animated films in Best Picture when they had the 10 the last time.
Yeah.
And I mean, we had 10 this year. We had a Japanese film in
Yeah.
there. Like I feel like and Drive My Car's box office was completely driven by that nomination. That was so important for that movie. So that's why, with just so many choices and so many streaming services and so many movies being produced, I like the 10. I happen to not like this particular list. I actually hated 4 out of the 10 that were nominated this year, which is
I like 3.
high
the 10.
percentage for me. But I like the 10 as a practice.
I just feel like it is not being done for the reasons we think, which is to be inclusive of smaller movies, foreign films. And I mean, it's great if that keeps happening and you get like the occasional foreign film, animated film, smaller film, indie film, but it is being done in hope that like stuff like Spider-Man gets in, which is never going to happen. and that was really the driving force in terms of like expanding this to 10, making sure, hoping that mainstream like bigger films would make it in to sort of like drive viewership. So yeah, I don't think that's valid or legitimate or or should be encouraged.
Much like a Twitter vote was meant to encourage viewership, and that didn't work. And much like putting 8 categories in the pre-show was meant to decrease the length of the show.
It was 30 minutes longer than last year.
We
Yeah.
couldn't believe it. Could not believe how long that thing was going on. I'm like, well, that was a epic failure.
Well, and you were watching on the East Coast. It's late here.
Well, that was the also thing too. Is I was watching it, like, I thought they were going to kick us out of the bar, and luckily everybody that was in the bar was so into it. And yeah, it was a pretty rowdy crowd, which was great. But I was like, oh shit, they're not gonna kick us all out. Yeah. Speaking of the show, there were some I just didn't understand. I think we talked a little bit about it, but some of the pairings, I did not understand. Like, why was Shawn Mendes there presenting adapted screenplay? Isn't he like a pop singer?
That's why.
I don't mind that so much, but there was a definite significant lack of star power, and
also the network can do the ads with him in them. And
he was the demon twink.
Oh, and that
representing
potentially the demon twink winner.
Yeah.
They need to run ads with presenters who are going to attract viewership.
Yeah, which they didn't do any of that.
No,
I don't
release
think
like the list on Twitter, and it's just like,
right.
Why are you so bad at this?
And then like, we're gonna do the first ever performance of We Don't Talk About Bruno, but we're gonna remix it and make it about the Oscars and not do the whole song and have Megan Thee Stallion there, but not promote
that made it famous and popular. It was so stupid.
And that could have been the opener instead of in the middle.
Exactly.
Could have been.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it was so confusing.
Yeah,
but they wanted to hold off to keep people watching for the performance of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, but see, in like the classic days, Billy Crystal would have taken that song, and that would have been his talking about all the nominees. Mm-hmm. And it would have been, we don't talk about Oscars, we don't talk about whatever, and that would have been like that's how you do it. That's right. Sometimes things are great because they're great, and you don't need to do something different with them.
Yeah. And then P. Diddy introducing The Godfather 50th. What the fuck? And then you roll out De Niro, who wasn't even in The Godfather. I get that he was in 2 and an Oscar,
They were
Where-
showing
I'm sure
clips
they-
from 2 and 3.
which was dumb. It's like those are separate movies. I'm sure James Caan is alive, or Diane
He is.
Keaton, or
Tweets like every day.
and
tweet.
I'm yeah, or
Talia
I'm sure
Shire.
they would have, and then Katrina just sat there and they just sit there and say shit.
And what did the athletes present?
They did the
James Bond?
James
Bond.
Bond.
Oh, right.
But wasn't like Judy Dench and
Javier Bardem.
Rami Malek in the audience? They
And
came
Javier Bardem.
and Javier
Javier
Bardem.
And Billie Eilish was singing a song from James Bond, so it could
I-
have just been sucked
They
into
had-
that.
It made no sense.
It made zero
None
sense.
of it. None of it. This was the worst produced show
The production was a disaster.
of all time, and that is
Disaster.
worse than last year, and it's worse than the Ellen Carr. I'll take the Snow White debacle any day over this.
I think that was visionary.
Yeah,
in
I'm sorry,
retrospect.
Camp.
but it was camp, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
I also
It was
didn't
the worst
understand
produced
why Daniel Kaluuya had to present his category with her.
That
she
was
could have done
weird.
original song.
Right, exactly. And who did original song?
It ended
Oh,
up being
It was Zoe Kravitz
Zoe
and somebody
Kravitz
else.
and Jake
And-
Gyllenhaal.
And
Yeah, I'm
Gyllenhaal.
not mad
Okay.
at that, but all right.
But like, it would have made sense if they did adapted screenplay and Shawn Mendes did original song, like
Right.
Sure.
With her. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Tracy Ellis Ross. Like,
Yeah, there was no sense making of any
it was
any
not
of it.
coherent. It was
No.
very
And also too, and nobody even talked about this, Halle Berry was supposed to be a presenter.
I
and
know,
pretty clearly
I thought she was presenting actor.
she was going to be doing actor. It was
Yeah, I thought so.
clear that she was going to be doing actor. She was not there.
Right.
that's right.
She have COVID.
And then that got us the 28th anniversary of Pulp Fiction. Like they couldn't wait 2 years?
Right.
What did we
Which
think of
is-
the-
Like having that and having Samuel L. Jackson on there when he won a fucking honorary Oscar the 2 days
Thank you.
before, that and it was just like an offhanded comment from Amy Schumer that he was there and so was Lee Volman,
Volman.
but not the other two, like
Yeah.
Yeah, because Elaine
Awful.
May and forgot I was.
because
The-
Elaine May said fuck
For,
this shit.
for
I'm
so
not
many
going."
of these, you had the correct
This is worse than
production
Ishtar.
choice dangling in front of you, and you went with something that didn't make any sense at all.
Was kind of
What
I
are-
also hated the seating arrangement. It felt so. I understand that COVID and all of that, but it felt so informal in a way, and they were all kind of like scattered around the stage. It was weird. It was weird.
It's
liked
the
it.
combination of the informalness of the tables and booths with high formal wear.
Right.
That's what looks weird. Nicole Kidman in that dress sitting on
On a
what looks
couch.
like a booth at a restaurant
Yeah.
is
It was-
awkward. It's weird.
and clearly it was cold because she had her husband's jacket over her the entire
And Penelope
time.
Cruz had Ardems as well. Like
I heard it was freezing.
Pedro Almodovar wrote about how
Yeah.
absolutely cold it was in that room.
It should have been like 98 degrees so it could kill all the COVID in there.
and this is for anyone, please read Almodovar's diary on IndieWire. It is
It's
So good.
incredible.
so good.
worth reading.
So
Yep.
good.
Incredible.
And
What
so
did you think of the hosts?
When they were there, they were actually pretty good.
Yeah.
It's
But they
sort
did
of
not, for having 3 of them, they did not serve the purpose of a host. They
Right.
were gone for so many
Stretches,
long
yeah.
periods of
Right.
time.
it
was-
sort of restated the fact that you don't really need a host for the Oscars. And that they're you could have just had 2 of them and maybe have them a little more present and like play off of each other more.
They needed to do more of that.
Yeah.
One of the 3 was saddled with like weird sexual harassment
Regina
material.
Hall.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought that was super
Um,
funny and I loved every bit of it.
I did love
But it didn't connect with anything else that was happening
Right.
with either
No,
one
but
of
that was sort of her. That's how she was written basically as a character
Yeah, but the other two were not.
And that
written
was
as
her
characters.
thing the whole time, was that type of like horniness.
Yeah, but I mean, the other two were not written as characters.
Right.
So it sort of it made her feel like she was there as comic relief almost.
Yeah.
Where in reality you have three comedians hosting.
Yeah.
And you could have created some kind of narrative for all three of them that also made sense like across all three.
Yeah.
Instead of just having her feel people up and then have Amy Schumer just parachute at some point randomly. Like, what is going on? What's
the whole thing they did with dressing up as the character, that was the closest to classic hosting that they got in the entire thing.
Exactly.
And that was actually really good.
I loved it.
But the biggest crime was not having Regina Hall recreate Brenda in the audience watching the show, or watching like Nicole Kidman's AMC ad. That would have been the greatest, wonderful, funny inside joke, but still people would get it. It would have been it was nothing but missed opportunities the whole time.
Like three hosts, two of them being really talented people, and you do nothing with them. So yeah.
Oh damn.
Yeah, no kidding. I did love Amy Schumer at the end because that was also interesting. That was like, oh yeah, I forgot. And then when she said, did she say something like, "What I miss?" After the Smith incident, I thought that was hilarious.
Legit, it was actually really funny. And then I mean, look at the aftermath of the seat filler bit with Dunstan Clemens, which was a bit that they were all in on.
Right.
And then you look at Twitter, which is full of absolute
idiots.
Fucking idiots that are just like, that was terrible. I can't believe she would do. Have you ever
seen an award show?
Ever watched the show before?
No
ever,
kidding.
Ever. You fucking idiot.
I know.
I mean, that's why it took so long for us to all actually like internalize the fact that what we saw with Rock and Smith was not a bit.
Right.
I thought it was a bit.
I totally thought
almost
it was a bit.
the entire time, even afterwards. I thought it was a bit.
Oh,
it was weird because I could tell that something was off because of the fact that the TV went mute.
Yeah, the TV went mute
for like 30 seconds.
The feed got broken up.
Yeah.
So I was like, is this specifically my TV or is this? And then I realized no, because I was watching with a friend. Hi, Blaine. And we were both like, well, this happened on both of our TVs. Isn't that off? Or like, that's weird. Yeah.
Well, I think when they panned to him and he was clear, I like, okay, he is pissed. This is not acting. This is not a bit. Smith is, and he's mouthing. It was funny. There was a woman in the bar, where everybody was like, what? Everybody in the bars just stopped and were watching. And one woman was like, he said what he quoted, what the thing about, get your, get my mouth.
Even with the screaming, yeah.
When they had the camera on him and the sound was off, I'm like, oh shit. So he's pissed. This is not a bit.
Yeah, because it was weird because Smith was laughing at the joke, and then he wasn't, and went on stage. Even the way that he went on stage, and then it just didn't feel real. It felt like a movie slap.
It was kind of exaggerated. Like,
it was so weird.
Yeah.
But once he sat back down and the mute happened, and we're like, what's going on?
What tipped me off was the F word.
Yeah,
because that bit would not have had the F word in it.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
So
thank goodness for the Australian and the Japanese feeds to really completely show the whole story there, because then, oh my lord,
I didn't revisit. It's not something that I feel.
Thank God for the woman in the bar
who was a good from what I read. Yeah.
I had a good lip reader in the bar who quoted.
And now there's footage of her reacting to the slap as the slap was happening.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Which she seemingly just left it off as it was happening. So it is a very confusing dynamic.
It is. It's going to be looked over more than like the Zapruder film. It's our fucking new JFK.
Back and to the left.
It really
to the left.
Also, I couldn't believe she could sit down in those seats in that dress. Speaking of the way they were,
She looked
seated.
amazing, by the way. And
She
that
looked
dress was
absolutely
incredible.
phenomenal.
I
Like, she
love
looked
that dress so
stunning.
much.
Incredible.
I loved
any-
it. I absolutely loved it. But I
Did
just couldn't
anybody
believe
know that I had no idea that I thought she was just, I thought it was a fashion statement that because I had seen her a couple of times in previous award shows, and I saw her like, wow, okay, cool. I had no idea. I don't obviously I don't
she's had her
follow-
hair cropped before.
Yeah.
But I
Very
think
recently.
yeah,
During
because
Red
she
Table Talk.
had that entire thing on Instagram about sort of like posting about and sort of like raising awareness about alopecia and all of that.
missed all that.
It was, I think it was shared enough that I think presenters would have known about it.
Okay, well,
I don't.
I didn't know anything about it. I thought it was a fashion statement. I had no idea.
Yeah, I don't think it was aware enough.
I mean, I knew about
Otherwise,
it, but yeah.
Well, yeah.
She also looks so damn good with her
She looked
like her head shaved.
so
Yeah.
amazing.
You could
She
easily
looked
pass it as a
so
fashion.
amazing.
That's what
Yeah.
I thought. I was like,
Because she still has hair. She's not like
Yeah,
and
the
she's
guy
got
from Barry.
yeah.
guy from Barry.
Oh yeah, what's his name? I love that
Yes.
actor.
Yeah, I love him too, but he also has alopecia, and that is like no eyebrows, and that is like bald to the skin.
Right.
Yeah, there's
And there's-
different, I think there's degrees of it. Yeah.
Exactly. Which is why I think people had such a sort of mixed reaction to the joke.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because there
I
were
just-
certainly people that were like, this is an autoimmune disease, and absolutely there's no place to make fun of it. And there was no gray area there whatsoever for a lot of people.
I just in general think the jokes about disabilities are not worth making.
But I think my point is the identifying something as a disability is where people kept
Yeah.
kind of like,
Yeah.
what people think of as a disability isn't what other people do,
Right.
whether they have it or they don't have it. And
But
that's
that's why she had a moment on Instagram where she was like educating people on what it is,
Yeah.
how it's affected me.
Mhm.
This is literally the day-to-day life with me and this disability. And that becomes like a teachable moment. So I feel like when that has happened, that there's a precedent of this person clearly having had a real life struggle with this.
Mhm.
So maybe as a fellow colleague, person in the know, it is something that you don't joke about. Common sense.
Right.
But apparently not.
Maybe.
It would have been interesting that if, I mean, obviously, like you said, we're not in the room, we're not here,
Right.
whatever the thing was, but I'm sure in hindsight, I could imagine Smith going like, you know what, probably would have been more effective as opposed to going up to the stage and smacking Chris Rock, was incorporating the getting people incorporating somehow about the condition of all in his speech. It would have flipped over, made Chris Rock look like the schmuck, and him looking like this, this very, without having to, defending her in a different way, in a more compassionate
Which
way.
agreed. But I mean, this sort of like, this is us discussing this 4 days after the fact, a week after the fact in hindsight, as opposed to sort of like you being caught up in this happening in the moment and having a reaction where clearly you're not thinking. So yeah, I think it's between the three of them. And yeah, that's where I would leave it. Yeah.
So Coda won Best Picture.
Coda won Best Picture.
Wait.
What the fuck?
And it was presented by Lady Gaga and Liza Minnelli. Which
Yeah.
That was rough. Not knowing that Liza was, I guess, really struggling that badly with her health. It was hard to sit through.
But
Yeah.
Lady Gaga did an amazing job of just really making sure that, she really, I thought right up there with the Coatsur win. I mean, as far as just like a touching, man, she really, I mean, I've always loved her, but man, my respect for her when how she handled the situation and really made sure that, you know, there was no loss of dignity for Liza Minnelli. I thought what he did was just remarkable.
Gaga is amazing. She's an amazing artist. Get her and Yoon Jun Yoon to host the Oscars forever.
I
The two of
thought that
them.
I
I
just
think
thought,
she
you
would
know,
be an amazing host,
Be
clearly.
great.
But I
Yes.
felt very differently about the Gaga Minnelli thing than a
Mm.
lot of people did. I had really bad reaction to it. And I thought it was,
in the choice of having her go up there.
yes.
Just
I thought it was a really bad idea. I
Sure.
thought it was cruel and tasteless and unfair to have Minnelli go up there. I thought it was almost abusive.
Not knowing exactly what she's going through, I think like I get the sort of like thinking behind, let's get like a real legend introduce the award. And I mean, if it's a degenerative kind of situation, this could have been the last time that she even gets to do that, as opposed to this is just her in the throes of, you know, a flare up or whatever it is. Maybe they could have waited until next year where she is back on her feet.
Hey guys, I gotta
don't
jump
know-
off.
don't
I
know exactly what's-
apologize. I gotta jump off.
Okay.
But good talking to everybody.
Hey, take care.
I
Bye.
love it.
Bye.
I don't.
Good seeing you, man. I mean, I think they, you know, you know, in the past they do that once. It's funny. I remember when Betty Davis and Robert Wise presented Best Actor. Oh God, that was awful. And
Mhm.
when, do you remember that?
Yeah.
For Paul Newman, and they couldn't get her off the stage, and she just rambled, and she kept repeating the nominees, and poor Robert Wise is sitting there trying to. And then the other one was when Olivier, you know, went up there and announced Amadeus as Best Picture before reading off the nominees. And I thought after that, okay, I think we're done with, you know, I mean, we were with these, you know, getting these legends out there that may not be able to handle this kind of thing. So Eric, in one respect, I agree with you. That was probably not the right choice to have Minnelli, especially in her frail state. But what I was saying is, I thought how it was handled, and especially Gaga, really, I thought she did a masterful job of making
Amazing.
sure that she kept her
100%.
dignity. But I do agree that probably that wasn't a good choice. You
It
know?
was, I mean, it's also the 50th anniversary of Cabaret, which
Right.
on top of Godfather. So I think a lot of us, before, you know, anything was announced, were like, okay, it's 50 years of both of these movies. Here's who's alive. Here's who, you know, trying to put together the possible ideas of what they would do. And so, you know, the idea of Liza Minnelli and Joel Grey, you know, presenting a tribute to the movie made sense. And so, I mean, I think we kind of know and understand why that didn't happen, but that they still wanted to utilize her in some
They
way.
could have had her do it from home, especially like getting her out in the middle of pandemic to just announce an award on a
Yeah.
wheelchair in
Yeah.
clearly a debilitated state.
It was, it
Yeah,
was really
not the best.
stressful, and I was really sad. Honestly, I was
Yeah.
really sad
Yeah,
by it.
What? And
I was very sad too.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. And Gene Hackman and Stella Stevens were not available for the 50th anniversary of the Poseidon Adventure. That's where I drew the line. Okay, come on. We're talking classics.
Yeah, I don't know that Gene Hackman is interested in.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's,
No, I think he's
Fully
he's
retired.
yeah.
definitely a no.
no, he would though.
Definitely a no.
All right, guys, take the month off.
Yeah.
Oh, quickly, we were talking about Jada being like one of the best dressed, but the other best dressed was sitting right behind her, and that was Lupita.
Lupita and Jessica.
I didn't
Those are my
like
favorites.
the ruffles at the bottom. I thought it was really cheap looking, but I liked the ombre. And then of course, Chastain's Vanity Fair look was
Oh my God.
like in the all-time greatest dresses and looks in Oscar history.
Oh my God.
I was just gagged. It was incredible.
Did we love
Incredible.
the shorts?
I am loved Kristen Stewart shorts. Loved,
Yeah.
loved,
Loved.
loved.
Yeah.
All Chanel, open
Me too.
shirt, that Chanel
I thought it was
Loved
a
it.
cool, I thought it was a cool kind of almost like a cool stunt to pull. I was imagining the same top with like a pair of really nicely tailored pants, and I would have been a lot more into that, I think, than the shorts. But I'm glad that it's something that happened on the red carpet at the Oscars, because it's the first, I think it's the first time then someone's showed up at the Oscars in shorts, booty shorts.
As a nominee, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Or in
was
general.
really surprised that Timothy Chalamet came dressed as Shawn Mendes, honestly.
I was very into that look.
Oh yeah.
There are people that are debating like, was it a good fit or not? I don't care. It looked cool.
Everything fits on him.
Yeah.
No.
You don't have to have a body to pull that off. You just
Yeah.
do because you're a movie star.
You're a coat hanger.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also loved Kirsten Dunst's dress.
I did too.
Yeah,
too.
one of the
Yeah,
good red ones. Yeah.
Very roughly. I loved
And
it.
Penelope Cruz, that was my mom's best dress of the night. I concur that it was absolutely one of the best. That navy was
Oh,
The
stunning.
navy was amazing. I didn't love the bib situation going on up here.
I
but-
did because it wasn't jewelry. It was created. It was fabric. I
Yeah.
thought that was super creative.
The color was, I mean, she's amazing, so she can wear whatever she wants. But yeah,
Yeah, that specific navy blue was just
incredible.
gorgeous,
Mhm,
stunning.
mhm.
I also like Anjanae Ellis's dress because the entire season she'd been in some really ill-fitting suits, and
That's an understatement.
yeah, and so I like the color, I like the dress, and and she was having a great night. So I was
Yep.
like, that's nice.
Yeah. Oh, the best thing that the show did? Clips.
Yeah.
And good
Thank
clip.
you.
And long, kind of slightly long, little bit longer. Good yeah. Absolutely.
Real ones.
Mhm.
So yeah,
What did
kudos to that, but the
what
rest
did-
of it,
What did you guys think of
fuck outta
the
here, Will Packer.
splicing in the 8 categories?
horrible.
It was really bad.
Waste of, yeah.
Worse than what it seemed like it was going to be. It was
So,
awful.
So with the ratings went up, right?
Yeah,
This telecast.
considerably.
So
Which was inevitable, by the way.
Yeah.
Right.
It could have
So,
taken a
but-
shit on stage and the ratings would have
right. So
been better.
do you think
So.
that they're going to go with this format again?
No, because they were still not good.
That doesn't. We don't. Our opinion does not matter. We're talking about Disney and ABC.
No, their ratings were still not good. They were
I know.
higher than last year, but
But
they were
do they
still the
think,
second lowest
hey,
ever.
do you think maybe that worked? You know.
Yes, because originally ABC wanted 12 categories taken off. So
Right.
yeah, I think 8 is the minimum.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. Or do you think because there was a spike, they're not saying, oh, it had obviously it had nothing to do with the incident, but
Yeah.
we even though it went long,
They would
I mean,
need
almost
they would need a producer that,
Is homosexual.
well, yes.
Yeah.
But
Totally.
the AMPA's president is, and he was completely in favor of it.
They need leadership and they need a network. That's what
Yeah.
needs to change.
This wouldn't have happened under Laura Dern.
I
But
also
they
was-
would need a show producer that would have to stand up against ABC,
Yeah.
and I don't know anybody that would
yeah,
do
good.
that.
Yeah,
Well,
good
and I
luck.
think the only reason why we've gotten years of why it didn't turn into this is because I think for a long time, Gil Cates was the #1 producer they always went to.
Yep.
And now that he's dead, like now they keep going back to these producers that don't know what they're doing. I bring back Bill Condon and Lawrence Marks. They had that great Hugh Jackman year that I still maintain is
Yeah.
the last like near perfect Oscar ceremony.
Bill Condon would be a tremendous.
Which year was that?
Slumdog
14?
Millionaire.
Okay.
The
No,
year
way
of the
back,
Yeah, the 2000.
5,
Eight, nine, yeah.
presentation, like
Okay.
double-
Okay. Right. That's right. Because he. Right.
but
okay.
like they had like musical numbers, they had montages, like it was
That made sense. Yeah.
yeah, like
We're gonna have ABC into the 100th anniversary of the Oscars, which sucks because it,
Which, by the way, ABC was never going to drop the Oscars. That was a
No,
completely
no.
fake threat.
Yeah.
never.
Yeah,
ever.
so it was really just poor leadership in play. And just just such a disappointment. Such
But
as
we also know too, with the, the ratings, the initial ratings came out, and then each day was, increased once they had the live plus numbers. And then we also know that the post slap numbers increased about 600,000. Not a lot, but it's an increase.
It was
So,
the nipple gate of the Oscars.
Kind of.
I can't believe that we survived the La La Land Moonlight swap and Slapgate, you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I think in many ways for me, the La La Land Moonlight one is even more egregious.
Yeah.
As a fuck up. Obviously, the slap has more of a shock factor, but for the Oscars to announce the wrong winner and for the
In
wrong
Best
winners
Picture.
to give a speech that goes on for 2 minutes before anyone
Not
does
even in
anything.
it's not even the same place at all.
Yeah.
That is beyond my comprehension.
Mhm.
That could happen.
What I think is like funny is that happened the last year that Sharon Boone Isaacs was president, and this happens the last year that Don Hudson is the CEO. So like, there's always, I don't know.
And
But I think leadership
David
is.
Rubin, this is his last year.
Is he
Cheryl
running
was
again?
Term is up.
done in the audience. Her face crack. She was done.
Yeah.
Like clearly right on her face. I'm so glad that I'm done with this shit.
Yep.
Do we think Dave Rubin's not going to run again for president?
No,
I wouldn't. I
Especially
hope he doesn't. He's not the gay that we want.
he
no.
not. Yeah.
He's the
President
wrong
Thurber,
one.
for you.
I just think it's going to be. I think it's going to be another ABC Disney. I think there's just way too much power.
Somebody.
I don't know who they're going to get to be able to convince them.
Somebody at the red carpet asked Ted Sarandos, the Netflix CEO, about if they would be interested in the Oscars, and he said like, "Oh, we're not interested in live entertainment."
Which by the way, that could change on a dime. If the finances or the economic return lines up in a way that's profitable to them,
If
overnight
I was
they're going to be interested. So
if I was Netflix, I would not even consider hosting until I win Best Picture.
right. Oh, absolutely.
So
There's
what?
no way I would do it before they win.
So NBC, CBS are not interested.
HBO.
Well, CBS has the Grammys. NBC has the
Which are right now.
which are right now. The Emmys rotate,
Yeah,
right?
they're-
Yeah,
The
these
Emmys
are-
always
They do.
they always rotate, right?
That means right.
Okay, but the Grammys are on CBS and the Oscars are. And are the Tonys also CBS?
Yeah.
Tonys are
yeah.
CBS.
Okay,
And the daytime Emmys are CBS.
and the
Yes.
Daytime Emmys, of course.
Yeah.
Send the Oscars to HBO Max.
They shouldn't be on a streamer, period.
No, they got to be on a live network. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. They should not. They should no, absolutely not.
No, I agree.
Just a better one.
This makes
Yeah.
me more like worried that the 100th is going to be bad. Because they don't
Yeah, me
care
too.
about history.
That's my fear.
What I fear is going to happen is that we're slowly cutting stuff away so that the 100 is basically the 90 minutes of like the main 8 categories, and that's it.
I'll bet they won't even do
Screenplay.
like, no, I'm just thinking of bringing out
The
as
yearbook.
many living Oscar
The yearbook,
winners.
yeah, that's not gonna
and
happen.
stuff. They're not going to do that because
No.
it won't even like occur to them.
They don't give a shit. They don't
give a shit.
Nobody who's in charge of this actually understands or loves the Oscars / the movies.
No.
So it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
It has clearly become something that they just milk for ratings and advertisement.
Yep.
That is so obvious and like apparent that there's no one in charge that actually understands who watches these and what to do to actually make them flourish and thrive.
Yeah. Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
That's depressing.
Yeah.
is.
Unfortunately.
I mean, this small little group of people that have been watching the Oscars and are very passionate about it and love it, and and probably, maybe take this. I don't know. It's weird. I mean, as much as I like, okay, I'm not going to give a shit this year. I'm just going to watch. Yeah, you're disappointed, and because you wait all this time you watch all these movies, Eric, to even further with you, because this is who you are, and you make a living, and you're a voice in this area. For us are kind of in the back, general spectators, and for me, who's been watching these awards before some of you were born, it's something that's really near and dear to our heart. And I know we've talked about this before, that this is probably why we all get together and talk about it, because even our closest friends, I mean, as much as they watch movies, they're not as into it and passionate about it, and take these things very to the
My
heart.
only hope is that whenever that is, that I don't have to watch Glenn Close finally fucking win an Oscar on Tubi or something. Please, God. I just hope that if we move to like a streaming service, at least wait until after.
Hey, at least
Please.
Quibi is over, and we're not gonna be watching the Oscars in little 10-minute bits.
Right. Like, I don't want to see her accept an Oscar on TikTok. Please. Please. Yeah. Yeah. After what I've been through, I deserve that moment on stage.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Anyway,
guys,
Bye.
Here we were saying we weren't going to hit 2 hours. We've hit 2.5.
oh, we're the
Yeah.
we're just
We
as bad
could
as-
produce the Oscars.
Yeah, we're just
Sure.
yeah, exactly. Cool. All right. So I guess what do we have left? 2007. If we want to start that up
will
again.
Hopefully go back to looking
just head
back.
up to 2007. Yeah.
2007.
2007 is where we left off.
I
and,
still have all my. I think I still. I think I was next to do the trivia. It feels like I think I wrote my trivia a year ago. I still have my questions.
Hopefully
So
they're
if we ever
still-
do it,
We will.
we definitely need a month off to
Absolutely.
decompress,
definitely.
and then we can start all over again.
Sounds good.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys. Have a good one.
Bye.